All righty, so there we go. And it's all you, Linda.
I'll turn my screen a little bit. It looks like I'm not at my office today. I came up to visit my parents, and so I'm working from the farm today. So everything's a little off. So if I have to take a minute, I was already doing some Googling on how to get the presentation where it's supposed to be. So we'll see how this works. But excellent. Well, good morning, everybody. Yeah, it's March break for me, so I have to get my brain back into work mode. We did have the opportunity to have a table at the little NHL this week, and that was fabulous. So if you ever get a chance to go, we had a great time connecting with past learners and potentially new learners and organizations, and got to see the Stanley Cup. Julie and I, there was no lineup, so Julie and I ran over and got our pictures taken with it. So it's been quite a week for us, and I'm just really happy to wrap that up. My week of holiday, happy to wrap that up being with you guys today, to share that with some of what we do. I think that a number of you have had experience with us or know a little bit about us. So some of the stuff I'm going to talk about might be a bit repetitive, but I'm going to go through it because we are doing the recording. And then I'm also going to have lots of opportunity. If I'm going through and you have a question, please jump in and ask it. I'm also going to have lots of time at the end for questions. So I'd really, I have the standard, this is what we do presentation. Like I said, we'll go through it, but if it gets off track, I'm completely happy with that too. So we'll just roll with it. So I'm gonna, can I get screen share, right? Yeah, okay, I see it there. Sharing is not turned on, okay.
Alisha, if you give her co-host abilities, will that let her share her screen? Okay.
Yeah, she's got it for me. Yeah, no, that's great.
And also welcome, Francis. We saw you pop in.
Does Francis want to introduce himself while I'm figuring out what I want to do here?
I'm still waiting for my colleague Karen to join us.
It's okay. We can wait for Francis. You can tell us about you.
Morning, everyone. Did Francis disappear?
Maybe.
Oh, there she is. Sorry, Francis, you had disappeared on us there.
Oh, can you see me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Good morning, everyone.
So, I'm not muting. So everyone, this is Karen and Francis. They're from the TVO. Is it still the Independent Learning, the ILC?
Correct.
Yes. So they're here to present next on the new GED, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, the CAEC.
Yeah, that's correct.
We like to call it cake. It's much easier.
Cake, yes.
It's too early to think about cake. So we'll be hearing a little bit more from these ladies next after Linda's presentation. And hopefully it will segue just nicely from Good Learning Anywhere straight over to the cake topics.
Sounds good. Let me share my screen. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Alisha, for introducing Karen and myself. So both of us work for TVO. So TVO, we are a government agency, partially funded by the Ministry of Education, and we have 4 sub-brands. So TVO ILC, which stands for Independent Learning Center, is one of the sub-brands under the operation of TVO. And today, Karen and I are very excited to be here to deliver this presentation to the new practitioners. And I will hand it over to Karen. We're going to start with this land acknowledgement first.
Perfect. I'm actually just going to turn my camera off because I find the bandwidth is easier when we're presenting. So it's not that I don't want you to see me, it's just that I want to make sure that you can hear us clearly. Perfect. So we wanted to begin by recognizing that wherever in Ontario we are, we're located on the traditional territory of Indigenous peoples. I want to acknowledge all Indigenous people in Ontario and their traditional territories, all the nations across the province that have called this land their home for thousands of years. TVO is located on the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Huron-Wendat, and Mississaugas of the Credit. I invite you to reflect on those nations that have been the caretakers of the land you're on. Take a moment to recognize their history and their contributions and to think about where we can each take meaningful action on a personal level to support Indigenous communities now and in the future. So today our focus of the presentation is introducing the Canadian Adult Education Credential, or as I just mentioned, we like to call it CAEC. So TVO ILC is the only organization that is able to administer the CAEC in Ontario, and it is in partnership with the Ontario Ministry of Education and the distance education piece. So in May of 2024, the former GED was replaced by the Canadian Adult Education Credential. And let me tell you, that has been quite a process transitioning from one to the other. So the CAEC testing itself is available in English and French. It's usually for adults who don't have a high school diploma, but they need an equivalency certificate. So sometimes it's to upgrade their employment, often training opportunities if people want to go into the trades. And I say some colleges will accept CAEC. It's really up to each individual college. So if you have a candidate who's thinking of going the college route and they're not sure whether they want to do their high school OSSD or they just want to do the CAEC testing, have them reach out to the college because each of their eligibility and registration requirements are going to be very different. So I don't want to say, yes, every college takes it, but I know some will. And the test is standardized and it's accepted interprovincially. So if you started in Ontario and you complete 3 of the tests and you decide you're going to go to Manitoba or Alberta, you can finish it off there. We just transfer your whole profile out to the next province. And it will, as I said, interchange. So if you leave here and you head somewhere else and want to hand it in as your equivalency, you've got that as well. And any former GED student who maybe completed 2 or 3 of their tests under the GED umbrella, they can register, they just update their profile and it'll just transfer right over to CAEC. And if they had 2 remaining to write, then they would just write those 2 under the CAEC format instead of GED. So they've made it quite simple to be able to just move from one to the next. The test details, the CAEC assessment is 5 tests, and they normally take about 7.5 hours to complete in total. But we would never do all of them in one day. Some people will do, 1 a week and take it over 5 weeks. Some people really want to get it done and they try to do it in 2 days, which is absolutely fine. And it depends on what the suitability is for the candidate, but they won't find any of the testing sites offering everything in one day. It is a lot, the writing piece. You wouldn't want to do writing and math in the same day. It's just very heavy. So the tests are scheduled in advance and they're completed online on computers at our official testing centers across the province. And you would need a score of 55% on each of the tests to receive the CAEC to earn that Ontario High School Equivalency Certificate. We've tried to make it really easy to register. It's very user-friendly. So for someone to register for the CAEC assessment, they would have to meet certain criteria and eligibility. So they cannot already have a high school diploma. They have to be 18 years or older and have been out of high school for 1 year. And that applies to our ILC courses as well. We do have some students who don't attend full-time school, but they take courses on ILC. So they would still have to wait 1 year from the date that they completed a course with ILC. If a student is homeschooled, it's 1 year from the date of their birthday. That's what we recognize, or from their 18th birthday. That's how we recognize the end of their courses. They have to be a resident of Ontario for a minimum of 6 months, and that's one of the documentation proof we ask for. And they cannot be currently registered in any Ontario public, Catholic, or private high school. So as I said, if you are considering CAIC, you just may want to use it for a new job or to upgrade to attend college or for an apprenticeship. It is $100 to register for all 5 CAIC tests. And if a candidate is unsuccessful, it is unfortunately a $100 rewrite fee for those. So we really encourage candidates to make sure that they are ready. Some people take up to a year to prepare for the tests. So be ready, because we don't want anyone to really incur that extra cost. So as I said, the registration process is simple. Our website is caec.ilc.org, and they would just go there and it prompts you to create a profile. So they would just confirm that they meet that eligibility I just chatted about. They create an account in the CAIC portal. And like I said, if they are a former GED candidate, they can use the same account. They just have to update it. They enter personal information. They upload the supporting documentation. They pay the fee and they submit the registration. And we're really quick on turnaround time. It doesn't take us more than a few days to get people processed and into the system. So, I would say 7 business days or 14 business days on the outside, but it's much quicker than that. So once we've checked everything, they can be accepted. Then they'll get an email with instruction on how to schedule the testing. The 4th step in that registration process describes the documents that need to be uploaded in order for the candidate to register. So we have primary forms of identification and we have secondary ones. So we would have to provide 2 forms of valid government issued ID. So you may do 2 primary, or you might want to do 1 primary and 1 secondary. And it just has to be something that's non-expired. And it must include the candidate's name, date of birth, their address in Ontario, the photo and the signature. And those are important for when they go to test taking, because they'll also verify their identification at that time. So these are just some of the primary forms of ID. And these are the secondary forms. So I just want you to keep in mind that if you have any new Canadians as candidates, they cannot use a permit or a visa or that are in the process stage. So they haven't been fully accepted. They've applied. So we can't accept them until they've been accepted on a work permit or an educational permit. And often there are conditions on those permits that exclude anything educational. So that's down at the very bottom. They would have to take a look at that just to make sure. And if you aren't sure, just pop us an email and we can confirm for you. So if a candidate requires accommodations to make sure that they're successful on their test, they will have to select that when they register. That would be additional time or scheduled breaks. We have Braille and assistive technology, and we also offer a scribe or a reader. So the person would log into their CAIC portal. There's an accommodations request, and they would navigate through that menu. They would just say request accommodation and then upload supporting documentation. And they can add any additional comments that they feel we need to know. And then they just click confirm to submit, and it comes to me and I take a peek at their documentation to make sure that everything's in order. So the documentation for accommodations, we have to be really strict on that. So the only options are either an IEP, so an individual education plan that's come from a district school board, or a psychoeducational assessment. And those have to be completed by a doctor or a psychologist or a psychiatrist. So it has to be a diagnosis from a medical professional. And then we can put those into place. And we would just ask the candidate to let us know once they had scheduled, so that we could ensure that the test center is aware that they're coming and we can prepare for them. There's a few points on the website that I really wanted to note. It's, as I mentioned, so user-friendly. So if your candidate is considering finishing off their high school diploma, the OSSD, or they're trying to decide whether they want to take the CAKE path, there's support there with answering some questions. The best way to contact the CAKE team, it really is via email, because we have a phone line, but it's not, someone's not answering it all the time. So it's best just to reach out and ask your questions via email. We have a frequently asked questions space that I can't emphasize enough to check this out before you reach out to us, because most of the questions are answered right on there. We have links to preparation courses across the province. Because we are part of the ministry, we don't endorse them, but we do provide them so that candidates can decide for themselves which is the best option. These are, I want to say, 90% online prep courses. If your candidate isn't comfortable reaching out to someone there are prep resources available on the Alberta site. They're the first province to offer the CAKE, and they have a lot of really great prep resources to be used. We have sample tests and outcomes. So if someone thinks they're ready and they want to try one of the tests, they can walk through that online, and it'll let them know how close they are, or if they have all of the components that they need to be able to complete it successfully. The outcomes are, as I'll mention, they're the expectations, or the curriculum expectations that the student would need to have mastered before they can be successful. And then, of course, the registration button, which is just a quick click and off you go. The test outline itself, and this is on the website, it's a breakdown of the number of questions in each test along with the allotted time. So you cannot go beyond, so for example, you'll see reading there, you cannot go beyond those 75 minutes. It will actually shut down on the student. So we want to make sure that they're able to complete those 50 questions in 75 minutes. That's why we encourage you to try those sample tests as well. And it gives you an idea of the weight of the testing questions. So you'll notice in math, part 1 has no calculator, it's 25%, and part 2 is 75%. So it just gives a little bit of a breakdown for the student. So keep in mind that part 1 on math is no calculator, and we can't even give an accommodation for that if they provide documentation to say, you know, my candidate really needs extra time. It's not, unfortunately, an option there. And part 2 is with the calculator. It just has to be a basic calculator. So it can only perform adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. So we can't have anything that's a formula calculator. The test outcomes, you can see a breakdown, as I mentioned, of what the expectations. So if they were following a curriculum, these are expectations that they would have to know to be able to be successful in each component of those tests. And they're on the website for all parts of the testing as well. And I know that was a lot of information coming your way, and I know that you'll have questions, and I just want to open up the floor. And Francis, I know you're here to help as well, if anyone has any questions.
So I do have some questions. So, for the accommodations for the math, so there is definitely no calculator, even if they have an IEP for
Yeah.
their math?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the rule right now. So I know there's one condition that they're putting before the ministry to see if they'll accept it for that, but they haven't approved it yet. So if someone came forward with it, I could put it forward to the ministry to see if they would make a special exception for that, but it would have to just be the one condition, which name right now I couldn't tell you, Mary, honestly.
Okay, I was just gonna say, is it dyscalculia?
Yep, that's what it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Mary, have
Yeah,
you had
because
before?
yes, because I'm at Polytech, so
Okay, thank
we are.
you.
And I'm also looking for the printable. Is there any printable resources we can use to, like, if I have a program to help them, and I'm looking at doing like a pre
Mhm.
are there any resources I can use besides using the old GED books?
Have you had a peek at the Alberta site?
I haven't. I can't. I haven't been able to find them all. Like I find digital ones, but no printable ones.
Ah, okay. You want to let me look into that one for you because I can let you know where the printable is. I'm sure there has to be one somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, when I was teaching the GED, there seemed to be like books everywhere on that. And so I'm just wondering, is it compatible enough that I could use these resources?
It has changed significantly in the math section as well as a lot of social studies in particular because the GED was American based.
Yeah.
Now you'll see a lot of the questions are strictly Canada. So it's different in that sense, and the math I know has changed significantly. So
Oh, okay, because that was the one that I'm planning on working the most with,
yeah.
because we find that was their highest failure rate was the math, right?
Mhm.
So it's starting at the ground, but I was really hoping that it would be somewhat compatible. Okay,
Yeah.
so if you can find me resources,
I
that would
will.
be fantastic.
Okay. I would also just recommend, and I think I may have mentioned to you before, Mary, do not buy the ones that are on Amazon right now. They are all American based, even though they're called cake. So we've actually gone through 3 different resources that are not suitable for cake. So don't spend your money on the prep from
No, I
Amazon.
haven't. I haven't bought anything yet.
Okay.
For that reason, especially if they're
Mhm.
American. No, I've just been trying to look for resources. We have a big meeting to start this program up very shortly on doing like a pre-GED, a pre-cake program, just to get the basics.
Right.
Because I find a lot of people you have to start adding and subtracting. You definitely have to start adding because carryovers and subtraction seem to cause stress when you mention that word carryover.
Absolutely.
And then long division obviously is another one. People are just too reliable on the computers. And I did find with the GED book, the math always started pretty well. It was like one page for add, subtract, multiply, and dividing, and then it went right into fractions. So it's to start before that. So that's what I'm looking for is those basic resources and the
Mhm.
reading comprehension with the math. Because I'm assuming the math questions are still the same. Like they're all word questions, right?
They're all language based. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and on a good note, I know that they're in the works, all of the jurisdictions, all the provinces are working together on a resource that you can just go in and choose, the writing component, and it will have samples and opportunities to practice test. So it's in the works. It's just in the
Has
infancy stage right now.
okay.
So yeah, and
Now
that'll be
what
on the
if
website.
now what if they have like learning disability for reading? Are there any um is there any help for them in the math? They might not be able to have a calculator, but are there any resources that they have for the math also or no?
Uh,
Like
for the writing, you mean? Or for reading rather?
for because they're word questions, right?
Right. Yeah.
So
They can have a reader or a scribe, but the person can't explain the questions to them. So if the piece is just literally processing from what they are reading to be able
yeah.
to put it on paper, they have the access to a scribe or a reader there. So that may be helpful, but they just can't clarify any meanings or what the question's asking.
Okay. But there is some assistance on that end though. Just
Yeah.
no calculator.
No. But if you have a candidate who has that condition, do let me know. And if you provide me the paperwork, I can put it in and see if they will accept it. So all they can
Okay.
know.
Yeah, my problem is a lot of my clients end up with no paperwork.
I
And
know, I know. And that's a piece too. I know identification also is often a concern. So just reach out to me because we're quite happy to make accommodations regarding documentation if they don't have particular government ID. So we've been doing that a lot with our Indigenous communities. We've been taking their status card as their ID. So we're happy to do that as well.
okay, perfect. Speaking of black cat, my black cat won't attention.
I keep waiting for my dog to bark.
Yeah.
Karen, there was something in the chat if you had a link for the Alberta site you had mentioned.
Um, I can get it for you. If you just even if you Google Cake Alberta, CAEC Alberta, it'll pop up for you. So it's pretty straightforward. And that's for all the provinces. If you have French speaking candidates, I would suggest the New Brunswick site. They have some French resources there. Quebec is not participating, so they're not. Don't go there looking for French resources, but New Brunswick for sure.
Okay, great. Do we have any more questions or pretty straightforward stuff?
And if you have any questions, anyone, and you want to send it right to me, my email is kcherry@tvo.org. So it's cherry like the fruit, nice and easy. And it's faster to go that way than to go through the cake mailbox, because if I see it and I know that we've chatted, I'll get right to you.
Okay,
Awesome.
right.
But yeah,
And-
if you can definitely direct me to where the worksheets are though.
Yeah.
I was just on the site again and I can't find them.
Okay, yeah, I'll take a peek for you, Mary, and let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
And
Thanks
I
so
see
much.
Andy, pop that up for anybody needing that link. It's in the chat. Thank you, Jamie. Okay, and if there is anything else, I'd like to thank Karen and Francis for popping in today and sharing their knowledge with us. And a great big nyama to you ladies.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much. Okay. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions about cake, and if you have any questions about TVO as a whole, including other resources TVO offers, feel free to reach out to me. I put both Karen's email address and my address at the chat box. Okay, all right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good one. Bye.
Hey, Linda, sorry about that.
Okay, it gave me a chance to have a second cup of coffee.
We're
So
just being
that worked out fine.
flexible and going with the flow today.
Yeah, give you a chance to really wake up and just run with your presentation.
That's the name of the game, so that's no problem. Does anybody need a coffee break before we begin, or do you want me to jump right into it? Okay. Actually, it's kind of good that they did that, because we have some cake resources coming out for you guys. So it actually is, yeah, kind of a good lead in. Can you guys see my screen okay? Just this, yeah, presentation. Awesome. Okay, well, we will shoot through this then. And like I said, if we have questions as we go through, to just let me know. Unfortunately, the way I have it set up, I can't see my notes. So it's going to be, I can't figure out how to do it. I don't use PowerPoint. So I'm just going to go with what we have here on the screen. So let's go with it. So just a little bit of the agenda is we're just going to talk about us, what we do, how we do it, the options that we have. What do you guys need, how to sign up with GLA, and then what everybody wants to know is upcoming classes and events, which is exciting. So like I said, I think I know a lot of you guys, but this is my 20th year working with Sue Hudson Literacy Council and ONLC. So I started, when I started, it was, can people learn at a distance? And we actually did do classes online. And it is crazy how we got into 2020 and everybody went online. So I'm kind of excited about that, that to celebrate my 20th year with Sue Hudson Literacy Council. Yeah, it's hard to believe. My kid just turned 22 and he was 2 when we started. So it's been a long haul. And I just took this job to just get my kids into, it was just something to do till my kids got into school, but now he's going to be finishing university. So I guess it did work. So with Sue Hudson Literacy Council, we have our on-site learning center in Sioux Lookout, Ontario. We also run the Good Learning Anywhere program, which is what I'm here to talk to you guys about today. The Learning Center offers the same content and is an on-site. So we have that little glimpse into what it's like and the additional challenges that you guys face dealing with clients face-to-face. And we are a community program with the Indigenous stream out of Sioux Lookout. We also run the Good Learning Anywhere which is the Indigenous stream lead for the e-channel program that the ministry funds. So we have online learning with the free classes. How that works, especially if you're new, is the aspect of with e-channel, we have a support org. Like you guys have the support org ONLC, we have the support org called Contact North. So you might see things that come through from Contact North that say e-channel on them. They are support organization for the other e-channel leads. So we have the college sector, which is ACE Online. We've got the French stream, which is CAF Plus. We've got the English stream, which is the Learning Hub, the Anglophone stream, which is the Learning Hub, and we have the Deaf stream, which is Deaf Learn Now, and then ourselves, which is Good Learning Anywhere. And we are also supported by Ontario Native Literacy Coalition, and our partnerships, like I said, part of the Employment Ontario and part of the LBS program, and we have the same ticky boxes to check that you guys have as well. Our learners have the same qualifications, that they have to be residents of Ontario, 18 years of age or older, and we are funded, like I said, by the exact same ministry and again, they change their names every 3 years. So I'm just getting used to Ministry of Labor, Immigration, Training and Skills Development. So I'm sure that will change in the next little bit. So our courses are free. And again, if somebody asks us what we do, we are my elevator speech this week at the Little NHL was we provide free online learning for adults across Ontario who want to upgrade their skills for school, work, or home. And we provide a variety of options for them, independent as well as live classes, and they're free. We're not trying to steal your clients. We're going to get more into that as well. In our contract that I was just reading yesterday, it says that we are our goal of e-channel is to reach clients in remote and rural areas, to expand the LBS services to remote and rural areas, as well as to support learners and programs that are currently involved in face-to-face. So that's to support the clients and to support you guys as well with the job that you're doing. So the essence of e-channel is definitely supposed to work hand in hand with face-to-face programs and just be there to support in curriculum or in times that a client can't participate within your center. Yeah. So again, live classes, short classes, and independent learning. We try to ask for a lot of flexibility because that not only helps the learner, but it helps you guys as well with your planning and being able to integrate those into the way you run your programs. Because after visiting a number of programs across Ontario, every program's different, every need's different. And so we try to ensure that there's flexibility, that you can integrate those to the best that it's going to work for you and your clients. Again, the topics that we have, we're going to get into that. I'm going to share a couple links with you guys in the aspect of the catalogs that we have. Reading and writing, mathematics, digital skills and employment, cultural content. We have the best Mohawk instructor language ever invented, ever existing on in this land. And we can't say enough about her courses, which I'll talk about a little bit later too. But so we really try to include topics that we hear that people want. We try to respond to the needs of the communities and the organizations that we're partners with, and try to ensure that our content, as well as the way we deliver it, are reflecting what you guys need. So I'm going to go through some of them. So this is kind of the self-management and self-directions. This is kind of a lot of the times where people maybe who are coming into literacy, they've had some challenges, they're multi-barrier, and they're looking for somewhere to start. self-management, self-direction are often a good place to do that. It's also a good place to start if you're working on some soft skills or you're getting a group together and you want to say, listen, I want to integrate some of these things into our courses. These are nice ones that almost anybody could take, and would get something from it. Even when we review content in the curriculum for these, I always learn something new as well. So these are a nice place to start if someone's coming in. Again, we have language, arts, and history. The cultural courses that we have, we're always working with Ontario Native Literacy Coalition to try to increase that aspect as well and ensure that the content that we're delivering reflects the culture. And we have experts that are reviewing that before it's put out. We also have a nice, really informal one if you have anybody or yourself even. A nice informal one that we have is, you've heard us talk about Julie, and she's one of our support, not our support orgs, one of our staff who leads a lot of the stuff around here. I basically do what Julie tells me is how it works and makes my life easier, but she's fabulous, and she does these monthly beading circles, so she's a fabulous beader. And she just has this open time where you don't even have to be a registered GLA learner. You can just come and bring whatever craft you're working on, and there's just an informal time to talk, and it's a good place to ask questions as well. And if you have somebody that's maybe a little hesitant, is a crafter, they can come and they can just kind of sit and listen and learn and make connections that way as well. In the last couple of years, we had a lot of money pumped into LBS and into curriculum development for Skills for Success. So you'll hear about that, I'm sure, today in somebody's presentation. We do have a number of pieces that are now available for that. Office administration, Skills for Success, early childhood education, Skills for Success, healthcare worker. And some of the new courses that we have coming up are kind of some micro courses on career discovery. So there's like construction, I think, and like truck driving, construction, it's kind of smaller courses that clients can go and just take chunks of it. If you have anybody interested or yourself is interested in artificial intelligence, we are updating that course every term because it's changing constantly. But it is good to be something to be aware of it and come learn, as well as a gardening course. And health and healing in an Indigenous world is also being released this next week as well. I think we're also doing the independent Mohawk course as well. I think that one's coming out too. I don't think that's on the slide, but I think that's being released as well. But our spring and summer class registration is open. Alicia's nodding, so okay, so that's coming. The registration for these courses does open on March 17th as well. So if you're checking our website now and see that it's not, it's because it doesn't open until Monday. So what do you need? They need an access to a computer, an internet connection, microphone, headset. There's no downloads required because it's a web-based contact. And then support. We like when a client is with a learning center because that's hands-on support, especially for new technology users, is so key. And that encouragement and troubleshooting. And we know how easy it is to quit when a browser's not opening or something like that. So that support is so important. Learning style. So who is a good candidate for online learning? Definitely if someone can follow written instructions, it helps because we do email a lot of pieces. The self-directed learner, again, who will visit the course regularly, but I also find this is a good time to practice those skills, right? To encourage them, to talk to them about, if you're taking an online course, it's important that you write in your calendar or set reminders on your phone or that type of thing to really start to help them take control of their own learning. Because if they're going to move into anything, employment, post-secondary credit, a lot of what we're expecting from clients as they move into those next steps is more of that self-directed piece. So we want to encourage that, and it's a chance to practice that. They want to be comfortable in participating in discussions and writing. organized and able to meet deadlines. Again, a chance to help with them with that and teach them some time management skills on that. And 5 to 12 hours weekly that they can devote to a course, depending on what course they're taking with us. Okay. So registrations. So with our registration, it's a little strange because they select their courses before they complete the registration form. Every client that registers with us also gets a mentor. And I don't know if I have any Grey's Anatomy's fans, but our mentoring came from Grey's Anatomy. And it came because if you remember that Meredith and Christina were their person. And we thought, okay, what do people need when they come into Good Learning Anywhere? They need their person, right? So that's what that mentor is. It's their person that connects with them. They're contacting the learner at least once a week to check in, say how are things going. If there's questions or they want to pick up the phone and talk to them, that's their person. When they go through different courses, they may have different instructors, but their mentor is going to follow them through from start to beginning, their start to end. So after they meet their mentor, they'll get their login and they'll get into their courses as well. How are we doing for time? Are we doing okay? Doing good?
God, I'm
Okay.
talking to myself over here. Yeah,
That's
we're doing,
okay.
we're doing good. Linda.
Okay. Any questions so far? I'm just kind of going to go through the registration in case anybody hasn't seen it before. Okay, feel free to throw in questions if you have them. Okay, so our website is you're just going to go in and you can see the yellow circle, register for a course. If someone's already registered, it's also a nice place to go because clicking on the red circle takes them the ability to log into any of their platforms as well. But the yellow circle is going to help them register for a course. This is how I said it's a little weird because the first thing you do is select your course. And probably when someone comes into your center, you register them and then help them select the course that they want to take. But here we're going to select the course. There's a lot of them. Our content is a lot. So this little filter saves a lot of time. If you're looking for something particular, just type it in there and it'll show those, like if you're looking for math, it'll just show the math courses, which is really helpful. And then you're going to go and you're going to click on select class. Again, I know when you go through this, you're like, wow, this registration form is a lot for literacy. And we are recording this, so I'll say this as diplomatically as possible, is the aspect of our requirements for the ministry are the same as your requirements. So all the registration and information that you collect, unfortunately, there isn't a good way yet for that to be transferred between programs. That would be my greatest ask to the ministry and something that's in every business plan that I write. And every time I have a chance to say it, there isn't at this point. So we do have to collect the same information and we do collect it digitally. So it is, it can be a little bit more complicated, especially for a new learner. So having you guys help walk them through this, I think is also good preparation because we saw with the cake people this morning, that's all online now too, right? So walking them through this registration is also an opportunity to teach them, you know, how do you put information in, how do you fill in these, like all this type of thing as well. So it's an opportunity to do that. And we know it's complex. We are also working on a new student information system that's going to hopefully be a little gentler. But for right now, this is what we have to work with. So it's important when you first go in, it usually clicks this button, which just asks your username and password. By selecting I am a new or previously exited learner, the registration form will pop up. And anything with a red star, we need to have completed. Short-term goals and long-term goals are helpful pieces for our instructors to have. And then this piece is very important. This information and consent. So this is the area. So our numbers are about, I think our goal is about 1,200, but we talk to over 2,000 clients a year. And in some of the programs we have. So when somebody is on our portfolio or comes into our program, it's really nice to know that they have somebody behind them. So we have people coming who have no contact. They've just found us online. They have no support systems. We have people that are actually in corrections facilities that the only contact we have with them is through their instructor. And then we have clients that are also coming into us from learning centers. So knowing that you're coming from a learning center certainly helps us, because we know there's someone on the ground helping them, and we can also have a way to work together to support the client as well. The other piece to that as well is, how much do you want to know what your client is doing? We have people that come and say, listen, I'm referring them to you. They use our computer in our center and we don't want to know anything else. We have other people that say, listen, this person needs a lot of support. And you know what? Charity and I are going to work together, and we're going to work together, and we want to know everything this person's doing. So this information and consent, we legally have to have this to be able to release any information to you. So if you can put in a practitioner's name and the email, and that this can check that the consent to share is yes, that is really important. The other piece to this is this box. I believe the information I've entered is true and correct. So we are assuming when this is filled out that the learner is filling it out, and the information is the learner's information. And we know this is a complex form, but this information now gets entered in the CAM. So it's important that it reflects the information for the client, because it is going into the government database. So while we encourage help, they have to be there, and the information has to reflect the learner's information. If it looks if there's something off, we won't process that registration until we talk to the person to confirm the information as well. Okay. You'll get your registration confirmation and course registration. It will take 24 to 48 hours to get that information. You'll receive two, one that you're registered, and then the courses that you have selected. You'll get to meet your online mentor. Like I said, this is your Meredith to your Christine. And if you're not a Grey's Anatomy fan, it's not gonna make any sense. But again, they'll answer your questions, enroll you in new classes, computer support, goal setting, referrals. They're supposed to positively motivate you and share GLA updates as well. When you log into, so to get your login to class, again, I talked about that red button, but that live login is going to be, if it's a live class, it's going to be 24 to 48 hours before the class begins. So you might register on Monday for a course that's happening in April. That login for that live class won't come until April. It helps to remind you that you've registered for this class in April, because a lot of things happen between now and then. But your independent logins are sent shortly after registration. You'll be able to get started on those right away. We do have different learning systems which help learning styles. So our live classes are held in Big Blue Button, which is very similar to Zoom. And we also have short courses in Moodle. So people will go into Moodle and they'll have their short courses that they work on independently, as well as links to their live classes as well. So we've tried to amalgamate that so people are just going to one place. And then we also have Edmentum, which is where our CAKE resources lay, and their independent study and are generally longer courses. So anybody starting with us, I usually recommend a live class or a short course. And people that are really prepping for writing the CAKE or moving into post-secondary or looking for something more specific that Edmentum might have, then that's a good platform for them. Again, this is something, if you have any questions about what a learner should take, to call us or to reach out to the client's mentor as well. But this is the good stuff. I like talking about what's coming up, and this is what you guys want to know, because I think this helps with your planning as well. So upcoming live classes we have, to give you an idea of the topics and what's coming up: landing your dream job, resume to interview, introduction to budgeting, credit, and online safety. We have an Excel and Google spreadsheets course coming up on Wednesday, March 19th, as well as exploring wampum belts. So I have two secrets for you guys. My top 2 tips for live classes. 1, is I'm going to put something in the chat. And I'm going to actually, I'll show it to you in a little bit. I'll pull it up. Is our live classes. So I have a document that I ask that the staff make every year, and it lists all the upcoming live classes. And to me, I think that would be very useful if I was an LBS practitioner, because I could advertise. If someone walked in and said I was interested in digital learning, I could pull that up and say, are you interested in a live class? Here's what's coming up this semester. But the second tip I have is Facebook. And I know some people are getting away from Facebook, but I'm telling you, for advertising courses, it's our best mode. And so every week we put up like what's coming up the next week. And it's really easy if you have a Facebook page for your site, is just to share that. Because what that does is just gets that information out. You don't have to create anything, you don't have to write anything, you just have to share it and then say, contact Mary if you have any information. So they'll contact you and you can help them, and that gives you a chance to try to talk to them, encourage them, say, come into the site, let's register. Or maybe they're already a learner and you can say, well, come on in and we'll get started or whatever. So I think those are the top 2 tips for kind of advertising this type of course. And there's our fabulous Mohawk language teacher. I love this poster. So we do have, oh, I need my notes and they're in my, anyway, we have Mohawk again coming up in May. But we also have Cayuga and Oneida. And so I'm going to ask that those posters get created. They're all live, these 3. So we do have independent courses as well for language, which are great if anybody wants to come in and nothing is being offered. I always say that's good. Best is always live, but with language. But what we are trying to do is that people's schedules don't work with that, and they want something. So we have a number of, we have 3 live classes now, or 3 independent courses that people can take. But the Oneida and the Cayuga are coming up. And again, once I stop, actually, if I just get out of presentation mode, right? Nope. There we go. Why don't I just do this? You guys don't care what my notes say, do you? Here we go. Okay, so Oneida is going to happen in April with Kiana Hill. And then Cayuga is happening June 3rd with Marshall Paulus. And that one is going to be an evening course. So if you are in an area or you have learners that are interested in those languages, again, they're coming from ONLC. I don't think Michelle's here. But so if there's anything we can do to help, she's asked us to work to put these together so that we can make them more accessible to onsite. So that's what we're really hoping to do, is that you register the clients, they take the courses, they're count as a learner for your program, but you don't have to go out and get the instructor and that type of thing. And I can tell you, having sat in on the courses, they're fabulous. So please check those out. And keep Facebook's gonna, where we will be advertising them. And I believe this spring people are going to register with Good Learning Anywhere for those as well, because we're able to then offer them a little bit more support as well. So keep an eye out for those. Just quickly, not sure where to begin. We have what we call course bundles. So they're nice if you want to take a look at those or ask us questions about those. And that's a nice way to just start advertising. You guys are the experts in your site and your community, and you can just say, okay, you know what? I'm going to do some targeted marketing on employment basics. And here's the bundle with Good Learning Anywhere. So we're going to come in, I'm going to help them with their resume, but they're also going to take the customer service, employment skills, success for job seekers, and soft skills for work. Easy, right? Like, we're trying to make your job easier. So we've already kind of put them together for you. So take a look for bundles as well. Okay, so Facebook, like us on Facebook for sure. The other thing, I'm going to put this in the chat. So it's an awful URL, but We also have a newsletter. So feel free to sign up for our newsletter. We try not to spam people with that. It is just more of an information newsletter that goes out. But on our Facebook group, we offer the new events, upcoming courses, as well on our website, our Facebook, and questions. So here's a few questions for you. If we wanted to, if kind of prompts for you, if anybody had questions that they wanted to ask that weren't these, that's fine too. But they did give me a few that people might be interested in. And while we're thinking of questions, I'm going to go back and find my link for the catalogs as well. Let's see where that is.
Yes, and I can't say enough about your little Moodle courses because I had to go through and review one of them. They're just like such cute little, they're not intimidated for new learners. You just work at your own pace and there's just so much information in them. So I just have to give you a little rave review on that one. Like even for you as practitioners to go through and look at some of those things, they're really neat.
And that's a great point. I appreciate it. I'm going to call them cute little noodle courses from now on. I like that. But the other thing is too is just the aspect of what did you say? Oh, instructors going through it. So if you're looking for some PD, we offer two things for instructors. One, if you were like, listen, I just want to take a look at this and it's going to be, I just want to take a quick look. I don't want to do it. I just want to see what the content is so I can see if this is the right fit. Call us and talk to us. Don't go through the whole registration. However, if you're like, I would really like to take this course and do it as a PD, you can register as a learner and go through that experience as well. And you'll get a certificate and that type of stuff as well. So you're welcome to understand that you will go through the same process as one of our clients. So you'll get a mentor and they will be like, hey, have you done your work, and try to keep you on track as well. And again, it's just because we can't have people in our system just hanging out forever. So the contacts that they get are to encourage and to ensure that they're kind of working on meeting their goal as well. So, but you're welcome to, check out our courses. This was the upcoming live courses that I was talking about. As far as, I like this one because I can tell from a glance, what is happening, and I can kind of plan out my semester. And if I want more information, I should be able to click here. There we go. And we have this live document as well, that you can go and it gives you lots of options. So you can look at all the courses, you can come up with the upcoming live in alphabetical or by date. Those cute little Moodle courses we have, it'll list all of those as well as Adventum. And then it has, like, if I wanted to look at the language bundles, I could click on that. So this is also good for your information as well as if a client was looking for it as well. So that's a great link as well to have our course catalogs. Okay. I probably went way over my 20 minutes. I apologize.
I just had a question, Linda.
Mhm.
You mentioned correctional centers, and we're part of the CLI pilot. So what does that look like for, is an internet connection required for people to do that? How does that work?
Great question, Melissa. What site are you at?
Thunder Bay Indigenous Friendship Center.
Wonderful. Okay. So when I say correction, so GLA has a project, I guess, or a program. So we are in every federal institution in Ontario. Our courses are being offered in the federal institution because we worked with them on a digital platform, and the clients take the courses. So In the federal correction system, it is an online course, but it's been modified because it doesn't have any outside links. So, you know, when you take an online course, they'll be like, hey, go watch this YouTube video. They can't do that. So it's been developed by the education staff in federal corrections, and it's basically its own separate little pace. So that's in federal. So to anybody going into federal, recommend they get in touch with their education staff and come take our courses. But for provincial, where we're at right now, is at this point, my understanding talking to them is that they don't have a consistent plan within their education, within their, so again, we're being recorded, aren't we? So we have the provincial correction system has a mandate for education. They do not have an overseeing person to filtrate that through the center. So every center does their own thing as far as technology and education right now. And right now, I don't know of any that have internet access for learning in provincial systems. But I have a meeting on April 11th with the managers of the provincial of SolGen and MCCS to discuss that. So I'm hoping in the next little while, if you're in a facility and they have internet access, you could be saying, hey, why don't you, as part of our learning plan and what we're working on, why don't you also take this course with the Learning Anywhere? I don't know what that looks like. I'm going to give them a few options, whether that will be, again, a separately housed or it's going to be open enough that they can take GLA courses. So very long answer to say it's not quite available yet, but we're working on something. So, and if we ever get our foot in the door to be able to support CLI and to support clients in provincial federation, they'll be shouting it from the rooftops, because it's been one of my passions for the last few years is to try to get digital access to clients who are currently experiencing challenges with corrections. But yeah, and the stuff you guys do with CLI, amazing. Yeah. And for those that are actually, for those new practitioners who know what CLI is, Corrections Literacy Initiative, and working within the corrections facility. So there's a group of LBS programs in Ontario that do that. Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem, Melissa.
I have a question.
No, no questions from Stacy. That's the only thing I said is if I'm coming to do that. Go ahead, Stacy, what's your question?
So I've had the gracious experience to work with you guys a lot in person. Like with Homeward Bound and like having Danielle come here or whoever was working with you guys at the time. So I was looking at the cake prep courses that you guys have, the new ones that have rolled out. And I just wanted to know like how much like, so like, you know, we have Linda here but Linda only covers like brushing up math and English. So I just wanted to know what kind of support you offer if somebody's doing like the sciences, social studies, like what the other ones are, like how much like support they could get, like if they were a blended learner here doing that with you, because we don't really have somebody that does that here for those subjects.
That's great. Yeah, no, that is a good question, and we're going to figure that out together, Stacy, because I actually don't know exactly what we've got going on. So we have a lot of the numeracy cake going on. So, and then graphic literacy, reading for information. So there's the prep science. So, and that's very much like it was with GED, right? Like, you know, like you either have people that are oftentimes, well, as literacy instructors, we're brilliant at everything, but oftentimes some people are better in certain subjects. So sometimes they're like, I'm really not comfortable teaching science. Right. That's where something like this comes in great, right? So it looks like Julie's put science and social studies on here. So that would be a great opportunity, right? In the aspect of if Linda's comfortable doing the reading, the writing, and the math, they could then be independently working on, like, and independently, I mean like coming into the site, sitting down and working on the science, or they could be working at it at home too, or they could do a combination of both. So they could register for that and take the science and social studies.
So I'm just, yeah, so like you guys, like there's somebody that they would be able to go to if they had questions or needed help or, yes? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Good to
So
know.
their mentor will be there. Yeah. They'll be there to help them if they have questions and that type of stuff, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And we're developing this. So I'll be interested to get your feedback too, Stacy, on this in the aspect of like, should we have something live? But that's going to be tough, right? But like, is it like a cake prep science or live session? Come ask your questions. I don't know what it's going to look like, but we'll see. Yeah. Great question. I'll make sure I drop this in the chat too. For you guys, so this is the last link I'll put in here is just a course catalog of GLA courses too. So that one takes you to this one that I like. And this is up, the same link will work every month or every term. We just update those links. So that's a good one to save on your computer. Yeah, is there anything else you wanted to, I'll give you a sneak peek. How about I give you a sneak peek to end off? Anybody want a sneak peek?
Sure.
Sure, quick sneak peek. Okay. This is the back end of doing stuff. So, so here's all our Moodle courses. Let me show you this one. This is how it's coming out here, the new one that's coming. So this would be what the a course would look like if they're taking a course in Moodle with us. Kind of go through and take a look, and it's got we have for anybody who doesn't want to read, we have voiceovers. There's lots of videos. We have interactive pieces within it as well. So if it was someone was interested in taking this course again, it'll be released in January. Can't believe we're March on Monday. Monday is the word I'm looking for. But they have different activities in here too, like flashcards. Shouldn't have picked this one because I don't know the answers. But again, a great opportunity to come and to take different courses with us as well. So I'll probably wrap it up there. I see Bonnie Jane's here too. Maybe your next speaker.
Yes, and I like to say nyawa. Thank you, Linda, for sharing all your information. And I wish I had known all of this when I was going through the process of the LBS coordinator, do all, say all, be all. So just like to say nyawa again for taking time out of your March break, and tell your parents we said hello and we're sorry for stealing you for a while.
Oh, that's okay. I appreciate it. But Nyama, for having me. Like, this has been a great opportunity to connect with people and see some familiar faces. So I think this is a great thing you're doing, and I was happy to be able to support it. So I'll put my email in there because if you're like me, you'll be like, oh, I wish I'd asked that question, or in a couple of weeks you'll be like, what's going on? Just feel free to give me a shout. Or pick up the phone and we'll have a chat. So it's the easiest way.
Okay, sounds great.
Okay.
Ona, and I think if anyone needs a little break, maybe like a 5-minute break, and then we can get into Bonnie Jane's presentation. Then we'll start there at 11, 3 minutes. But yeah, I'll probably just give us a little time to sit here and chat and warm up. So yeah, feel free, go grab coffee, take a little bathroom break if you need, and we'll be right here. Oh,
So how are you, Alicia?
Oh, I'm good, good. Enjoying doing the stay-at-home mommy stuff right now. So actually, this is a nice little break too.
Have some company for a change.
Yeah, I was telling Michelle, I was like, I got to wear my professional clothes today. And how have you been?
I've been good. I've been good. Good to see you, Charity.
Yes, likewise. It's been
I miss you, of course.
we were talking with Michelle earlier. We're like, we need to just all get together and go for
I
lunch.
know, yeah. Now that the weather's getting better, yeah. Maybe we can meet for lunch or something.
Absolutely. Are
That'd
you
be great.
Michelle
still
said
U of
she's
T?
buying at Mont Hill.
Yes. Yes. So, are you still U of T?
Yeah. I still do Zooms.
What
I think until May,
okay.
then I'll probably start tripping back in. But then even then, it's only just 1 day a week.
Nice.
Yeah.
Keep that gig.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
1 day a week. That's
But
good.
then, yeah, so, but my daughter's in Toronto, so I get to have a stay over and do the stuff at U of T and yeah, breaks up, and it's on Wednesdays, so it's kind of breaks up the week. That's great.
Dream job.
I'm retired, don't you know?
Oh, you know you's never retire.
I know. I really, the only day I got to go out is on Wednesdays. Right now, I'm teaching a Zoom class for you, Vic, Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Oh, awesome. What class is that one?
Language revitalization.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's kind of a virtual program. So there's really language learners from across the country joining this class. It's really interesting. So I got only just 3 more weeks of that. Yeah. And then there's one for May, mid-April. Yeah, mostly in May again. I'll be
I think
teaching.
you're retired.
Yeah, but you get to choose what you like to do. But then you're super busy, and then you take a break and say, "Oh well, I need a break," and then something comes up. Oh, I'm busy again.
No rest for the wicked.
It's fun. Yeah. Uh, Keeps me on my toes, I think. Yeah, it's
Have you
good.
got to do any good traveling or conference,
Um,
conference presenting traveling?
well, my sister retired last summer, so we kind of been taking little bus trips, like little bus tour thingies. Like we never did that before. I've never done that before, but oh, it's so handy. I think the last one we went to was a couple of weeks ago. We went to bus tour to Ottawa
Okay.
National Arts to see the Tina Turner um, musical. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, things like that.
Right.
Yeah, I think she just emailed me yesterday and said she scheduled us for a another bus trip to Ottawa next month to tour the tulips and go on a boat tour on the Rideau. So you just leave, it's a day trip. So you leave in the morning, come back at night. They provide you with your meals and that's quite handy. And it's only a day.
That sounds wonderful.
Oh, what we get to look forward to.
Right? Right
Yeah,
now.
things you never had time to do when you were working, just, yeah, okay. But it's always good to get back into stuff like this, the teaching part of it. I like to share information, whatever I've picked up along the way. So this here's kind of another, I guess, example of some of the, having worked in Indigenous education for so long.
I've been
Same.
supporting Brock.
So it's helpful.
I've been supporting Brock University in looking
Ah,
a Canadian research chair. They got the funding for it for a tier 2. So I'll have to send you the job posting and see if you can circulate it through
Sure.
your
Mhm.
students, because
Yeah.
they've got it completely, well, as open as it can be, because they've grouped together 3 different faculties,
Mhm.
and it's not a PhD required.
Ah, not a finished PhD.
Well, right, exactly. Not a finished PhD. But no,
And I've never had, I never found time to finish that either, so that's kind of
honorary,
still on the back burner.
yeah.
Well, I don't know what I need it for now.
I'm just happy I finally found a job that, like, I'm like, okay, I can stay here.
Yeah, all good. That's great. I'm glad you're enjoying that.
Yeah, I'm too busy to think otherwise. So I
Yeah.
think that was the key, was I just needed, chaos, and then it worked. So
Mhm.
um,
So,
okay.
yeah,
Well,
did you want me to get started?
we'll
Just
get
gonna see if
everybody back.
everyone's back from their little break now. And yeah, we had some technical difficulties this morning. We were all running around looking for our Zoom link at like 5 minutes to 9. I was
Never
kind of
mind.
thinking about that over the night, and then this morning I actually got on my computer to kind of email you to see if you had sent the link and I lost it, and then when I opened it up, you had sent it, so I was good. Yeah, we were all in the same boat. This person sent it to that person and that, but we're here, and I think it worked out better. Everyone got to get their coffee going and their
Good.
food on. So if we ever do this again, we are not starting at 9 o'clock. It's a 9:30. 9:30.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone. Without further ado, our next presenter, Bonnie Jane Miracle here, and we'll let her do her thing. Ah, I'm going to, I just wanted to say hello, Sego to everybody. Sego, Zewaguego, Yen Hodungwas Youngets, Wagata Huni, Degayenda Nega Ganagari, Ganyangehaga. My name's Yen Hodungwas. I'm from the Wolf Clan of the Mohawk Nation, and I reside in Tyndonega. So I'm coming to you live from Tyndonega this morning. Bright sunny day out there. Haven't stuck my head out to see if it's cold or not, but it looks nice. And I'm glad people have taken some time this morning to join in and have a listen. I hope the information's helpful. It's food for thought anyway. So to get started, I'll share my screen for my PowerPoint. Let's see. There we go. So this here is, I'm going to be talking about integrating Indigenous education using that OILFC framework. If you can kind of keep that in mind of we're working within the parameters of the framework. So I am the CGO at Ontario Native Literacy Coalition. I work out of University of Toronto as the traditional teacher now, and for a number of years I was the Indigenous literacy counselor, and so I guess combined together with teaching and working with the ONLC of looking at the idea of literacy and the framework that's being used there, then I put together this information for you. So I just wanted to say Sego, Ani, Dase, greetings everyone. So bear in mind that in using the framework of the OALCF, it's comprised of the competencies and the idea of periodically milestone where you stop and have a look, and I know you're more familiar with that framework, but what we're looking at then is
tasks are required, but how can we integrate Indigenous knowledge and cultural components into those tasks and integrate the training that's being offered? Literacy, of course, is primary in this, but there's also aspects of cultural literacy that can go into that. And of course, all of this is supported by cultural resources and still working within the framework of the required Ontario guidelines that's offered. So the idea is that you become a learning facilitator rather than a teacher or an instructor where you're just giving out information. It's the idea if you're working with Indigenous students, then you have kind of that cooperative way of setting your programs up or pairing and things where you're guiding their work. So I think it fits well with that framework of where students work at their own pace and but it's also culturally appropriate for whatever nation of student that you're working with. So this is part and parcel. So I just wanted to give a quick educational overview. That big question is then what is education? So when we really take a look at education in anybody's world, whether it's you know, I guess looking at the United States or looking at England or looking at Japan or looking at Australia, everybody has their own system of education, and the purpose of that education and what we know it to be as that education system in Canada, it's a system that's created, overall, it's a system that's created by a society to perpetuate its way of life. So they want to create good citizens. So in Canada, they want to create good Canadian citizens with information that surrounds them being so, Canadian information. So that is complete with the culture that comes with the dominant society, the values and the information that is. So for Indigenous people here in Canada, that has resulted in what we know now is all that colonization process. So in Western education, as we see it, it's a very linear process. It's a boutique of information, skills, tools that can be used, but we, for whatever subjects, we pick and choose these things to use. But also too, Western education is a fragmented way of learning. So we learn certain subjects only however much time will allow. So we only learn a little bit of that. So it results in lots of times of our kids in our schools asking like, well, what's the purpose of this? Because it's fragmented. It has a beginning and it has an end, and that's all you need to know because according to the guidelines, that's all you need to know. But where does that lead? However, in Indigenous education, it's always kind of like a circular process. It's a spiral of learning. You build on what you've already learned, depending on the grade level or the level of learning that the primary grade things are taught, but also too that's expanded. But there's so the learning is continuous and it's holistic in the fact that we look at the learner as a whole person in those parts, their mental, their physical, their emotional, their spiritual aspects of them. Are they out of sorts? How are they today? So kind of that kind of learning or awareness is still in Indigenous education. So we teach to the child. Western society teaches to the curriculum. So that becomes a major difference. So what we have gotten into in the past, 20, 30 years is that now we can label it as decolonizing education, but especially for Indigenous communities, we're in the process of relearning everything, our culture, our languages, our way of life, and rebuilding that. So the idea is trying to integrate our teachings into that mandatory learning that we have to do, provide for our children or the learners
it's all a relearning. It is basically a relearning aspect of that in our attempts now to decolonize mainstream education. So indigenizing plus integrating equals transformation. So that provides for the learner being able to start to understand themselves, start to understand their world around them, plus the content of the information that's being shared to them. So the indigenizing part of it is whatever nation is doing the instructing or providing that information can be made student-oriented for the benefit. So overall, the idea of, I would say, Indigenous education is that information is taken, it's coupled with experience, the act of doing. So we have data and facts that's presented. They get to work with that, see how to work with that. When they're finished, they have a sense of knowing. They have gained some knowledge about what it is. So the idea then is it needs to be coupled. It just can't be fed down information that we try to file away and memorize. Years later, we forget about it. But in Indigenous education, it's information coupled with experience. How do we use that? What situations? And actually experience that so that they gain knowledge. So if lots of times the students will be helping other students and they get to explain what they've learned from their experience. So that's the knowledge that they've gained. So that's the kind of approach it is. So decolonize the education is a more holistic approach in Indigenous integrated education. So integrated Indigenous education provides accessible, culturally relevant education and training in all topic areas for all levels of learning, in all mediums and genres, with the support of culturally appropriate resources and learning experiences. So that's kind of what the nuts and bolts of what we're looking at of Indigenous education. So the holistic program components, when we're looking at the components of integrated education, then it's about the linguistics. But in this instance, it's also about the study of the Indigenous language that's in there. So, but we still keep with the same components as mainstream learning linguistics or that grammar, phonics, listening and speaking, communications, being able to do that. Also, too, there's the social aspect of it. So learning is drawn from community events that the student is involved in, listening to stories and legends, participating in songs and dances. So that then is that experiential part of it. Information feeding experience. The spiritual aspect of that. There's teachings, traditional teachings, creation stories, attendance at ceremonies, getting around that to help with language learning and social events, so there's a crisscross and mix of these here things that are integrated, making it a holistic program. So historically, elders are involved, but they carry the knowledge as well of traditional knowledge, the stories and the legends, and also too providing information on the cultural activities and the arts, the songs and dances, like I said, and the stories that's going on, traditional teachings. So those are kind of like the basic components that can be combined, integrated into a curriculum that, again, that is based on that framework, what is needed to be learned by the student. So the holistic learning encompasses a variety of Indigenous literacies. So in mainstream, in the sense of what we're doing, basically at ONLC, is that there's a concentration on that literacy component, supporting that literacy component, but it's also an Indigenous literacy component in that the idea of reading and writing and numeracy is part of the mainstream's idea of literacy. But in Indigenous literacy, remember, it's all about rebuilding and revitalizing, relearning. So in the literacy, there has to be the oral relearning part of it, experiential part of it, environmental part of it, and a spiritual part of it. So these are all can be classified as Indigenous literacies. So there's a plus to the component of literacy that's being added in the integrated education system. So indigenizing, I can't see that, indigenizing the curriculum. So this is integrating Indigenous information using that OALFC framework. So there's Indigenous content and Indigenous knowledge that can be added in, and it doesn't have to mean you change everything. It can be integrated, means you feed tidbits of information in there. Everything can be surrounded and backed up by culturally appropriate resources. Human resources are really highly recommended in that you bring in people to talk about something, or you have people come in to like drum making or something like that. There's expertise that, so elders in the classroom that come in, part of periodically we have the storyteller in our community that comes in and tells some stories. So we have culturally appropriate resources, of which in this idea of education, the human resource is valuable. We have theme-based units and hand-on projects, so that there's a beginning to the learning. They see how things are working, they get to experience that learning, and there is a conclusion, and they end up maybe with a product or something. So, but they can see where that knowledge is going. And land-based curriculum is that of place-based curriculum, in that idea of learning just doesn't have to happen in the classroom. It can go outside. So we have inside learning, outside learning. All this can be backed up by Indigenous authors and musics. And again, this is where the legends and the storytelling comes from, whether it's taped or recorded stories or videotapes or YouTube anymore. There's a lot on that. There's a lot to draw from to bring into the classroom, or have your adult learner listen to those kinds of things. The materials are handy like that. But it's also important to bring in the Indigenous heroes and historical figures. Who can we be proud of in our societies or in that nation of people that you can bring in from the community? Maybe they're a renowned artist or a carver or things like that. So some of the historical figures, of course, Riel, the history of Riel, Elijah Harper was a turning point in Canadian government. More so was a turning point in the art world. Ted Nolan, he was noted for the sports entry of Indigenous people into the sports. So Indigenous literature, there's all kinds of literature. You kind of just really have to be careful of looking at and making sure the information is coming from an Indigenous person. But a really good organization online that you can follow that, who does all that screening of materials, is thegoodminds.com. So this here's all kinds of backup when you're looking at indigenizing your curriculum or your tasks, those things that you've developed in your framework, and looking at those competencies. So Now, miigwech, thank you. So that's what I had put together for you to share some of that information and those supports that can be used, cultural supports that can be used around the teaching of the competencies, those different levels of work and tasks that the adult learner has to go through using that framework. So I don't know if anybody has any questions to ask. I'm open to questions. Comments.
And I think that'll be a nice little segue to showing some of the resources that ONLC has created,
Yeah.
letting the practitioners know where they can get them. I know some of them are free, some of them are highly sought after, but having worked on some of them myself, they are very Indigenous incorporated.
Right. And they're very diverse amongst the different nations of people. That's what good about the resources coming out of ONLC. Yeah. Good. So I hope some of that information was helpful. Give you some ideas of and it's not like you have to ask permission to do all this stuff. It's just naturally you can integrate it in so that the learner, be it Cree or Anishinaabe or Haudenosaunee or however, you can gear that materials to their kind of learning. So it enhances and it enhances the learning of the student, but in that they're gaining the content and the information, but they're also gaining self-awareness and historical information that they never heard before. So they're looking, their world is opening up and they can follow then, trace or do follow-up work on some of that information that's opened up in their natural learning and their task oriented route that they've been taken. So so that in that sense, it not only the schooling or the learning just doesn't only concentrate with the mental part of us. We're in kind of revitalized or shaken up. That awareness is created spiritually, emotionally, and physically out there doing the practices, making the drums, doing the dancing, going for those walks, learning all of that kind of stuff sparks a wider range in when we're looking at that broader range of literacy learning where they might find a niche that never exposed to them before. As an Indigenous person, we're trying to fit them into what's available to them in the mainstream.
Just remembering that as Indigenous people, we work better with our hands.
Yeah.
Knowing that we have to do them like physically.
Yeah.
So having people in the class and it's just not going to work for a lot of our learners.
Yeah, it doesn't work for a lot. Yeah, that idea of just that mental buildup of all that stuff and them sitting there thinking of where am I ever going to use this? Thinking of their world, you know what I mean?
I think that's a big part of, I don't know, one of the really big strengths of the Indigenous approach to literacy is having people reflect back on what their world is and building confidence from the things that they already know. Whereas you're already using math when you're doing these things, you're already using literacy skills when you're doing all of these things. So, what is it that you enjoy about the things you do in your everyday life? And now how can we build on those?
Yeah.
Help you really make those connections to understand, all of the things they're already doing and make it interesting. So going to school to sit and work through booklets, to find things that, like you said, you're not necessarily feeling engaged in, and how are you going to use these later?
Yeah, that's one thing that, especially with adult learners coming in, you know, they might be great beaters for years and years and years, but they're trying to get, you know, some kind of education for mainstream. However, they've been doing all these calculations and doing all these graphs and estimating all these, you know, supplies they need to get, and they've been doing all of that for years. That's all those competencies that can be looked at when they're looking at, you know, moving along this framework, this provincial framework that is going to allow them to be a qualified in whatever it is they want to pursue. So yeah,
Really
but they
build
don't realize that. So they don't have that realization that they can celebrate what they're already bringing. Hmm.
valuing those things and
Yeah.
building confidence so that they continue to work in that way.
Yeah. Hmm.
Because
So
a lot
great.
of skills aren't valued. It's just like, oh, that's just crafting.
Yeah, it's just, yeah. Oh yeah, that's just yeah, I
So,
just do that, you know. But meanwhile, you've been doing it for 20 years. Like who else can do that? So yeah, so looking for the value in what's already happening, but knowing that in this education system or the way we're doing it is that is an Indigenous literacy that can be taken into consideration. Mhm.
Like, I think you could segue your way into this charity with your boutique, because that is a good way to draw in learners that might be a little intimidated by the Western way
Yeah.
they were taught their whole lives. So you're bringing them into the program, you're creating that inviting, you know, non-threatening space for them, and just
Mhm.
letting them know that what you know and what you can do is valuable.
Yeah, that's a big boost for them when that's explained to them, if they can take the time to just, you know, have a look at entering in the program and what is it about, that kind of thing. So anyway, I will leave you ladies, and thank you. Good to see you again. And
Jane,
thanks everybody.
is it okay if we share your email address in the event that anyone has any questions?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
that's
Thank you
good.
for that.
Thank you, Ona.
Mona.
Alisha, do you want to share what the agenda is that we have for the rest of the day, just to give everybody kind of a walkthrough of what
Um,
we have coming up?
I do, but it's kind of all jumbled as well because of the late start there.
That's
So some
fine. Yeah.
around. But I just wanted to bring up the ONLC resource, because we were just freshly on that anyways, and I think it would just make it would complement what she was saying. Oops, nope, we don't want that. We don't want to learn prefixes, do we, everyone?
That might be good. Those things that we know we
No, we want people to stay awake.
should. Is everybody awake?
So what I have here is the ONLC's publishing part, Turtles Back Publishing. So here they have a lot of good curriculums and resources that are Indigenous flavored.
Is Michelle going to be back to present on any of this?
She's not sure.
Okay.
So
Right.
I
Fair enough.
told her we can just touch on this if she wants to go into it more, but I'm thinking pretty much this is what she was gonna do.
Okay.
Just letting everyone know that these type of resources are out there to help complement your program, to even build some of your programs around it. And like Charity was asking for the overview of the afternoon, that's more of the stuff we are going to try and touch on. At 1:30, we do have another guest speaker coming in, Ngwakwe George, and she is going to go over the
OALCF.
yes, she's going to go
There,
over that.
in detail, she'll go through that and the
Yeah, so we'll
kind
talk
of the
about
approach to all of
competencies, the
that.
levels, all of that fun stuff. And this afternoon, I believe it'll be more based on like how many people are into like the cams and the reporting part of it. What else do we got? The EOIS.
Yeah, it's just more about how to actually run your program. What are the things that you need to consider? What are the things you need to look at? What are the questions you have? And we'll do our best to answer those questions. And if we don't have the answers, then we're, either among the group, maybe we can solve some of those challenges, or Alisha and I can go outside and find those answers and bring them back to the group to make sure that we're providing you the information that you need that's valuable to where you're at within your programming. Also, as Bonnie Jane was talking about, and we're looking at some of the resources here, in the event that there is a program or a resource that you think would be really beneficial for your program, don't hesitate to send those ideas to Michelle. That's where she gets a lot of the information as to what to develop and what partnerships to look at, and who to bring in for different online meetings and learning sessions and things like that. So being really engaged with ONLC as a support organization is really important, because Michelle is there to support your programs and really help you with the things that you need to be successful. There's a lot, eh?
Yeah, there is.
But and the resources that are on Turtles Back Publishing are free.
Some of them
Are
are.
free for the literacy programs, are they not? And
I'm
then
not.
it's if an outside organization that's not a registered member of ONLC is requesting them, that then there's a fee for the resource.
Yes.
That's my understanding, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, you were only on the board, that's all.
I know. I know.
But yeah, you can purchase a membership. I think it's what, like $50 for an organization membership to ONLC.
But all of the Indigenous literacy streams should already be members.
Mm-hmm.
What book do you teach out of?
Me?
Yeah. There's the intermediate Mohawk.
Well, actually, I wrote that one.
Oh. I wrote that.
So, I don't really teach out of it. I just grab stuff from it every now and then.
Oh, there you go.
Well, actually, those were meant to be used within a class, like over months of a length class. And we're trying to squish it into 5 2-hour sessions.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Now, after you do your language class, do you have like conversational little coffee sessions so that people can practice what they're learning?
No, I don't have enough time, but that's another thing we were talking about with Good Learning Anywhere. Just because it is a lot of information to, like, there's the basics, we could probably do a 6-week class just in colors and numbers.
Yeah, for sure. But just in trying to make your mouth do the right shape. Let's be frank.
Oh, yeah, that's like a whole month we practice on that.
Yeah, I'm still there.
Mhm. Yeah, like they have so many great resources that they didn't have when I was
No,
field.
because Ningwakwe Learning Press was still a resource piece, like the publishing piece, and then ONLC was the support training piece.
Yeah, because even bringing in learning through the music, and if you could bring in any singers, drummers within your community, like these are really great resources to have. And you know what? As teachers, don't reinvent the wheel. Just find what you can. And I seen up here they had a assessment tool, and I think Ningwakwe is going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Um,
So can we check in with everyone and just kind of find out where you're at? What kind of questions you have before we get into the afternoon. That way, if there's things that we can find and make sure that we've got the resources available for you, that we can do that work, even just kind of over our lunch to make sure that you're getting what you need.
I do have a few questions about CAMs, but like you said that they're gonna go into stuff like that this afternoon, right? So should I wait?
Right. What area of CAMs are you?
I want to know what the process is to close someone that you can't reach.
Okay. Yep. So just closing files.
Yeah, closing someone you can't reach, or if someone wants to close for like, I guess mostly somebody that you can't reach,
Yeah.
or someone, yeah, and if they don't have a milestone and you can't reach them.
Oh, and they have no, right?
I have one like that, and then I have others that have milestones but just are not reachable by, like, I've tried to reach out to them because like I'm coming into this with like stuff that's already in progress, right? So yeah.
Yeah, and just kind of going through and cleaning up the files.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. So because like eventually there will be uh somebody, like I'm just like a support role until they're able to fill the role. So I'm hoping to have it like more cleaned up for when like somebody new comes in, right? But
That's so nice of you.
it's a little messy right now.
Since you've been in the role, have you had any of your reports come back through so you know your number of inactive, like reporting from the ministry pieces?
Sorry, I'm not sure what you mean because I haven't actually had to do a report yet.
Perfect. That's all I wanted to know.
Yeah.
Is if you've seen like those numbers. So, because the way you report your stats or what actually counts as a learner and all of that is a little bit of a nuance too. So I won't get us into all of that stuff yet. We can have, our lunch and all of that. And then this afternoon, we can cover some of those things, but I'll make sure that we highlight what that part looks like.
Yeah. Okay.
You're going through what it takes to make an active learner, all of those pieces, and then what it does to your stats if you back out somebody who doesn't have anything like that.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
or the best approach to doing those things.
Or also like, sorry, I have another one. Like, how long do you wait like to read, like when you're like reaching out to someone and they're not responding, like how long do you wait before you just end up ultimately closing them? Like timelines would be nice to know too, like what's acceptable for how many times you reach out. Like
Do you still have Linda working with you?
I do.
She was the one doing the follow-up and the closings when I was there.
She doesn't close people, I close people. She does the follow-ups.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All of the joys of, the community programs, right?
Yeah.
So, like, we feel your pain because, we've been in it. And different programs operate in different ways. I know just in speaking with Melissa from Fort Erie, I don't know if she's on here, she was identifying that because of the turnover in everything, she's maintained so that she's the one that has the access to do everything, because just getting people access is a lot of work. And
it takes forever. It takes forever. Like that's what I've been experiencing now. And like they're still having trouble figuring out why I can't see the closed cases that I haven't closed, but that still need like follow up in tasks. And like it's just.
Yeah, that usually has to do with what is assigned to you.
Yeah.
So it's like if you can assign people to you, and then but that depends on your level of designation if you are able to do the assigning, because you should be able to go in if you're the only one kind of operating within this space right now and assign every learner to you, and then you can see everything that's going on.
No, they have it set up so our finance department for some reason is the ones that are in control of like giving me access.
Yeah, there should be two people that hold that level of designation. Finance usually maintains that, so that there's
Right.
always somebody within the organization that doesn't usually have the same rate of turnover. In the event that everybody from literacy bails, the organization can still assign credentials to somebody new. Yeah, so there's again, like every center does it a little bit differently, who holds what designation, but
Yeah.
that SPRA authority, there should be two within an organization. One is usually an admin, finance somebody, and then somebody within the program who is responsible for the learners and the case management piece. So whether that's your literacy coordinator, if that's your, your top position kind of a thing.
Well, that's what I'm doing, right? So like they haven't given that power to me. And like you said, like, and what Melissa, I guess, shared with you, it's the same thing here. There's just been like Ingrid was here for a period of time and she did really well and like turning it around a little bit, but it's just been person after person after person, right? So
Yeah, I know. Alisha and I actually spent some time out at HRIC supporting Sarah McLaughlin. I'll never forget.
I love
I'll never
Sarah
forget
so
her name
much.
because it was Sarah McLaughlin, right?
Yeah.
So like, we get to go hang out with her. But yeah, even at that point, it was, okay, let's try and get things under control and kind of have some of that over.
Sarah has moved on from us. She works for a youth organization now with like youth addictions.
Okay, wow. Good.
Yeah. She's doing really well. She really likes it.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, she was a lot of fun to spend time with and try and, navigate some of the center life. Hashtag it's yeah, there's definitely lots of challenges and things like that, but what do we have for like on the agenda now, Dish? Sorry, I don't have it
It
around.
was supposed to be Michelle for we already.
Goes back, yeah.
Yep. And let me just bring this up.
Well, I don't know what everybody's schedules look like, but we could do our break for lunch early, get into our afternoon schedule, have lots of times for questions, and then if we get to end a little bit early, we get to end a little bit early. Okay. Yeah, so all of the learner files and stuff. Okay.
Because I think, well, what we kind of missed up here with the getting started, you already talked about some of the designations, so maybe just showing her the different levels of what is there.
Yeah, has everyone had the opportunity? I know the links and access to the course just got sent out, but has everyone been able to log in and access the new practitioners course? Maybe. Crickets?
Yeah, because basically what we could be doing is just, oh, that is Ningguakwe. I think the best thing for us to do, Charity, is just walk through the program, the course we have.
Okay, this will be a little bit funny for me because I'm on the back end of it.
Believe this is what the students would see.
Oh, okay.
Student mode.
Yes. I don't typically go into the student mode.
Yeah, so we could just
Building mode of things. Okay, so everyone would have received an email, and so full disclosure, it might have the wrong names assigned for some people because, like, as an example, I put in the HRIC email and Ingrid's name automatically popped up because she had previously been assigned. So it's not your name, and I was in there trying to figure it out. And I think I just have to like delete you as a learner and re-add you so that I can change the name because I didn't notice. I was just going through adding everybody. But I didn't want to limit your access right before the course. So I can do that piece. Now, it's very straightforward. It's module based. You don't have to complete all of the modules. You can go to the areas that are interesting to you. So this is what we were just talking about, is that like the SPRA, which is your like highest level of authority kind of within the MTC or whatever their ministry does.
Whatever they
I
have
don't
this.
even know, right? Like they change it so many times. MTLSD, MSL, like I don't even know. Anyway, the ministry, which so you went through the obviously you signed up, you got your OPS login and username, and then your TCU gave you authority, maybe, to do changes within. Is that correct, Stacy?
Yes, so I have like reporting authority, submission authority, but I don't have authority to make any other changes than that, I don't think.
Okay, so the only other really level of change would be you don't have the authority to add a new user, right? So like if you were to hire somebody, you can't give them the authority to log in.
No, that would be finance. I
Yeah.
don't think that they want me to do that. I think that they want to keep it with them, yeah.
And that's fine
Yeah.
because with the level of designation that you have, you should be able to do all of these things that you see on the screen, right? Where it's the recommend, reject, close, so this lets you work on your agreements. Now, do you get to do the agreements and like your business reporting?
If it's under that, I think I have access to that section where all the reports, like,
Yeah.
where it notifies you that one is there and then like to do it, but like I'm not sure, like I haven't really gotten too much into that area yet because there hasn't been anything. Like Ingrid did the business plan and all of that stuff. Like we looked at it together, but she did it before she left.
Okay. When did she leave?
End of February.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So then do you
Oh
go?
no, sorry, end of January. Sorry.
Okay, so
Yes.
just check.
I do have a question, Charity, like while you're talking about like reassigning like the name to that.
Yes.
Would you, so I have a program support email. Would you rather do it that way so you're not attaching me to the literacy email because that's going to change again when somebody new comes in?
Yes. If you send that over, then I'll give you access attached to your name through that other email, and then
Yeah, I'll just put it in the chat for you.
okay, and then we can walk through those things. And again, after the course, if there's other questions or things that you have, always feel free to connect with Alisha and I, and
Okay.
make sure that, again, to the best of our abilities, we'll get you the information that you need if we don't have it.
Do we have contact information yet for you two? Because I think we've gotten everybody else's, but I don't think we have yours.
Oh, really? Oh, maybe that was intentional. We can make it sound like we want to be helpful, but
Send everything to Michelle.
yeah. Okay, so Alisha, if you can go back to the getting started module, like to I think it's like the second page within that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll go through this. So again, this is the way the course is set up, is really as a new user or a new program coordinator, what are the things that you need to take into consideration? Obviously, understanding what the literacy and basic skills program is. Go to the next one. Because I can't change the things. Okay, scroll down a little bit. Are you in and accessing this page, Stacy? Just in general. I don't mean through the course, but I mean online. the employment, the EOAS, whatever they are, EOPG, all the acronyms are ridiculous.
Sorry, you mean like on, like, can I get onto this
Yeah, like,
course?
so not for the course, but so the Employment Ontario Partners Gateway, these are direct screenshots from the website, and this website will tell you. So scroll down, Alicia. Keep going. Keep going. Okay, so here.
Oh yeah, I have access to this. That's where the forums are, right?
Yes, it's your
Yes.
forms, it's your some of your assessments, the OALCF, and
Yeah.
also this is where it lets you know when your transfer payments are coming, like all of those updates and information as to what the ministry is looking to generically communicate with all of the program stuff, right? So a lot of what you're going to need can be found somewhere through this website. Now in the course, I've kind of highlighted it. So if you're looking for information on, say the goal paths, then there's a link to the goal paths. If you're looking for information on like on any of those areas, which again, Ningwakwe will get in and cover those things today, but it's nice to have the reference just so that you understand a little bit more about what's happening.
Oh, Ingrid was like super fantastic. Like we were together for like a month before she left. There was a month of crossover. And she created for me like a literacy, she called it a literacy Bible.
Perfect.
It's like a big binder with like examples of like previous reports.
Because you
Like
can copy and paste those things.
yeah, like a lot of stuff. I have all the milestones, like the repository. I think it is printed out in there, so I can.
We don't say those things out loud
Sorry.
just because they're not supposed to be printed.
Oh, why?
Well, they're supposed to be as you like, so the overview of the milestones, culminating tasks, all of those things.
I did send a PowerPoint.
Would you like to bring that up now?
Yeah, and then I'll just talk a little bit. Alicia's going to run the PowerPoint for me because I chuckle when I think that I'm approaching 79 and I grew up on the res in the days of no hydro, running water, and that little 75-yard dash to the little outhouse. And to think that now I am doing Zoom calls. I have mastered some skills, others I haven't, and that would be the sharing screens that I have not done yet. This is a younger version of me. Actually, that's my picture taken on my 65th birthday. So I guess I need to change it, but I like the necklace. Okay,
You
next
still look the
slide,
same.
please. Pardon?
You still look the same.
Well,
Maybe your hair is a little lighter.
I try. That necklace was actually made for me by the mother of the literacy program coordinator in at the Can-Am Friendship Center at the time. So I had to build my outfit around the necklace. Okay, next slide, please. All right, so most of you will be familiar with the OALCF chart. So I was working at the ministry. I started at the ministry in 1988. So I was one of the first coordinators hired in Ontario. And real fast, I found myself working at the ministry, helping with 35 literacy programs all across the province. I've seen them go through different frameworks. I've seen them go through different ways of measuring learners' progress and successes. This is the most recent one. And in all the time that I've been involved in literacy for 38 years now, I would have to say this is probably the most flexible, but it would be hard to follow if you haven't seen the other ones and know that there's a lot more flexibility in this one. So as you can see, it's linear and it's laid out in a chart. I'll try not to get too political about that. So we'll slide into the next, we'll go into the next slide, please. As an Anishinaabe from the Saugeen First Nation in Southern Ontario, I've been very accustomed to viewing things through the medicine wheel. So what I did when I saw the OALCF chart, as you know, the medicine wheel has four quadrants, each of them as important as the other. So when the OALCF chart came out, I looked at it and I could pretty much translate what each part of the OALCF was asking us to do. So spirit, a learning outcome for that is our vision. So I equated that to goal path. And for heart, our learning outcome was the feelings that we have. And we have feelings when we decide we want to embark on a path, and we develop a learning plan for that. For the mind, I looked at some of the skills that we need to carry out our learning plan. And then the body is, it helps us to carry out those skills, which then become tasks and tasks for us to do to reach our goal. All right, the next slide, please. We know that there are competencies with the OALCF. There are 6, but I'm accustomed to thinking in terms of 7 because of the 7 grandfather teachings, the 7-generation way of thinking that we follow. So to make up for the fact that there are 6 competencies and 7 feathers, I just added that last one, the first one, sorry, and put in task group and levels. So I color coded them according to how they appear on some of the frameworks that the ministry has put out. I'll get into a little bit more about that later. All right, next slide, please. So when you have learners coming into your program, that's a huge step for them. They may have had to overcome a lot of feelings that have been placed on them by words that others have said to them, actions that others have said to them. And yet here they are, they're questioning themselves, they're questioning their worth, their abilities, but yet here they are showing up on your doorstep saying, I'm here. I want to make some changes in my life. I don't know what that's going to be. I was a teacher for ages and ages and ages. And so I would see this over and over again, particularly when I started out in adult education, adult literacy. They would come in with these feelings about themselves. And so I learned from Frontier College this thing called the SIN approach, that we look at what are the strengths that the adult learners have demonstrated before they come to you. As they come to you, they may not be able to identify them. Their strengths will come from their interest. In other words, their interests are going to be motivating them to embark on that path. And then you look at their needs. The other worldview that people have is that let's look at their needs. What do they need to do? I was taught by Frontier College, no, let's look at their strengths first. Those become transferable skills that we can use as a good foundation for how we're going to build their learning plan. So the next slide, please. Oh, I hope that you have a copy of the OALCF chart in front of you. I have found that when I'm doing anything with to do with the ONLC, I have to have several copies of that chart. I have it here in my office. I have it out on my dining room table so I can keep referring to it. So let's think about a learner that you have in your program, and let's think about what is the most successful or the most fun activity that you have had with them. Anybody want to share?
We just recently, maybe like a month ago, did ribbon skirts for, I think it was 4 weeks. That was nice to do with them in here. Some of them did the creating oneself or expressing oneself creatively milestone. And
Okay. Fabulous. Actually, I'm just embarking on a ribbon apparel making workshop with some of the youth that I'm working with here in Saugeen. So I can identify well with that. So when you think of ribbon skirt making and you look at the OALCF chart, I found when working in mainstream organizations, I've often been the only Indigenous person, and I have to flip things from my worldview, the way I grew up, to the way that the mainstream organization is going to measure success. So talking about the ribbon skirt, think about the different activities and skills that they're going to be doing. And think about the first row on the left-hand side in the OALCF chart, which is their competencies. And those competencies are generic categories of learner abilities. They want us to embed those competencies in authentic and purposeful tasks. In other words, to what you just said, Stacy, it's an authentic task. That's something they're going to be doing in their real everyday life. Is it purposeful? Yes, it is. So when we think of the competencies, they are, and you just think in your mind, will they be using this competency in the ribbon skirt making? Number one, communicate ideas and information. I'm sorry, I have to go back. Find and use information is the first competency. So will they be using that? If so, how? And anybody can answer, not just Stacy.
What was the first one? Find and use information?
Yep.
Yeah, so maybe they're gonna find what colors go together.
Okay, thank you. I know that when I met with the group yesterday that we're planning to do the ribbon apparel making, what we're going to do in the first session is we're going to have them decide what is it they are going to make. Are they going to make a skirt? Are they going to make a vest? Are they going to make pants? Now there are wide leg pants out there with ribbons on them. Some are adding ribbons or appliques to clothes they already have, like a jean jacket. So I guess in finding and using information, oh yes, and then we're also going to give them the teachings of the ribbon apparel making. So part of the find and use information, of course, we'll have handouts that explain to them that you go through a very purposeful thinking about a very, intentional and purposeful and positive thinking about what colors are you going to use. what pattern or what applique are you going to put on it. So they will be looking through the handouts that we give them, because in our Anishinaabe culture, each color has an energy or a meaning to it. So then they will decide, they will look through that and find and use the information from that to decide on what color. Some of them may have already been given colors by an elder that has given them their name. I know certainly when I was given my name way back decades ago, the elder also gave me colors, and it was up to me to find out what that name means and what each of those colors means, so that I could then put them to use in my life and wear them whenever I needed that kind of energy. So the next competency is communicate ideas and information. How would they be communicating ideas and information in the ribbon apparel making?
They could be doing the interact with others and sharing the stories of the colors they chose and why they chose them and what it means to them.
Exactly. Good for you. So the next competency is write continuous text. How would you fit this into? I don't know that you would have them do writing in ribbon apparel making, but you just might.
They could just
They could write a story about their skirt and actually, you know, explain it not just in word, but on a piece of paper, on, you know, what their colors meant, why they picked the pattern for their skirt, who they made it for, especially if they're making it for, you know, and just give a little story to go with the skirt.
Exactly. Good for you. What we're doing with the group and that we're working with is we're giving them each a journal as we walk through the teachings about putting your intention into making this apparel and the colors that that they're choosing when we give them the meaning of the colors, because we're mostly Anishinaabe here on Saugeen First Nation. There are a few other nations represented here, but we would use the colors, the meanings of the colors as we understand them here. So there's where for us the communicate ideas and information, the writing, that's where that would come in. So the next competency is understand and use numbers. How would they? How does that tie in with ribbon apparel making?
First is probably the most essential one because you have to measure everything out.
That's for sure. And then the next competency, use digital technology. Will that tie in or will it not?
it could if they're doing any research on the computer.
Okay. Excellent. And then the last one, oh, sorry, the last two, manage learning. How does that competency tie in with the activity?
Using their time efficiently, like not socializing too much, knowing they only have a certain amount of time that maybe the facilitators available or sewing machines, stuff like that.
That's right. Thank you. The way we're setting up this ribbon apparel making workshop is we're going to have different stations set up in different rooms of our library. So they'll be cutting out the pattern, or they'll be laying the ribbon, or they'll be making their applique, or they'll be ironing. So managing their learning, looking to see who's at what station, and maybe even talking to somebody who's in the same station that they are and moving on, sharing ideas and learning, teaching, learning from each other and teaching each other. And then the last competency is engage with others. How would that tie in with ribbon apparel making?
I'd say with helping each other. A lot of like in the workshops that I've seen, people end up like helping each other put different pieces of their skirts or shirts together.
Okay, that's excellent. I know that where some of the people run into difficulties here is in laying the ribbon and making it work smoothly. I know, Charity, you and I had that conversation way back some time ago. So engaging with others by teaching what you've known or asking what you would like to know. All right, so that completes the first column in the chart. And then you move into the second column, and that's when you look at the task groups under each one. Now, we've covered most of that as we were going along for the find and use information. The task groups are there are read continuous text, interpret documents, extract info. So how we're starting out is we're going to be giving the teachings about the intentions and the meaning of ribbon apparel making. And I imagine that the participants would be extracting info from what people are saying, or you could even show them in a YouTube video on somebody doing it or talking about what they've made. Here, this is what I've done, and this is my thinking that went into it, my energy that went into it. Energy is very important. So it's all about making the activities as purposeful and as meaningful to everyday life. Okay, I'm looking at the time. We're at 1:47 already, so I'm just giving you the heads up that the way to interpret that chart is to start from the left-hand side and work your way in. Identify in the first column what competencies are we demonstrating here, and then move into the next column. What task groups are we demonstrating, and then move into the next columns and choose, is this a level 1, a level 2, a level 3? So the next slide, please. Okay, I'm just going to say a couple of things about this, because at the time when the OALCF first came out, there were many reactions in the field about, gosh, it's not as linear a process for our learners. They don't just nicely walk from one category in the chart to the next one, because life will happen. So I tried to find a way to encapsulate that, and I thought, well, the eagle is one of the most important symbols, certainly in Anishinaabe culture. He's known as a strong bird and a good flyer. He goes through various stages with the flying. He learns to fly, first of all, by observing his parents. And this is an instinct known as imprinting. Once the eagle feels comfortable, then he will try little trial flights in the nest, and this helps him to build the confidence to fly. So I'm hoping you're making the analogy with learners in your program through the stages that I'm developing. Parents are watching what they're doing, and when they see that, hey, this one is ready to fly, then they will nudge them out of the nest to see if they can handle it, and even accompany them on their first flight. And sometimes it's a straight flight path, and sometimes not. As in life, it's not a straight path. We will sometimes get veered off by life. I know certainly when I started university as an adult learner, my daughter went through a very rough stage in her life, and I had to look at what's more important here, my getting my university degree or my daughter. I chose my daughter, and I am ever so glad that I did. So you can think of some of the challenges that the learners in your literacy program will be having. Recognize that, honor it, and help them to make good choices for how they're going to continue on, either with the literacy program or take a break and come back later. No judgment, no question asked, open door, open heart. And I just want to add one more saying to this. Here in the Anishinaabe country, we often talk about how the eagle soars overhead and seems to be observing the terrain below before he decides to land. And that's what we often do. We often, when others seem to think that we are wandering off track, we just say that, we're doing what the eagles do. We're soaring, we're observing and making a decision for where we're going to land, or are we going to continue on? And then we usually end it with the line, if it's good enough for the eagle, it is good enough for me. We get our teachings from observing creation. Okay, next slide, please. So what happened when I was talking to people about the OALCF chart, and I kept thinking about the medicine wheel. I was at a gathering. Sometimes insights will come to me just straight out of the clear blue. An image will come into my mind, or I'll just get this feeling in my heart. And as I was getting up to go and talk to someone, this image, this very image right here, appeared in front of me, and I thought, that's exactly what we're doing. There is the OALCF chart in the middle, and as an Anishinaabe, I'm used to thinking in terms of the medicine wheel, and I thought, if we keep our own worldview, our own way of doing things, we keep true to that, everything that we do, everything that the chart requires us to do fits into that framework, and there's overlap all the way around. So I had not overlap, but extra, those pieces that are left over from the chart. And I thought about that, and I thought, okay, what does that mean? Well, it's our cultural competencies. It's our values. We have teachings in our culture, whatever we belong to, that guide us in our thinking. And that may not necessarily fit into the chart. It might, but if it guides us to a good life and it guides the learners to good life, good decisions, then so be it. 152, I was told to save a bit of time for questions. So next chart, please. Next slide. I like this because, well, you can read it and you'll see why I like it. Not everything that counts can be counted. Not everything that can be counted counts. All right, so the next few minutes are questions, please.
Thank you so much, Ngwakwe. I wish everyone knew just how experienced you really are in all of this, to be able to ask you any kind of question that they think that they might have. I really encourage people to do that because, as Ngwakwe said, she has been in this field for a very long time and has contributed to the evolution of it, especially for the Indigenous learners. So
Yeah,
take a plunge.
thank you. I was chuckling as I was thinking about that this morning, and I thought 37 years ago, I was part of that group that started the ONLC. I was part of the group that we met at the town inn on Church Street in Toronto, the very first literacy conference in Ontario, and that was bringing us together so we could learn from each other, and they could tell us about the framework that they had in place at that time. And when I think back to the people that I met there, I'm probably the only one still involved in literacy. we sat down and we wrote a proposal to start the Ontario Native Literacy Coalition. We got funding the next year, and here we are. I'm sorry I took up the time. Questions, anyone?
I mean, we have time. You're good. Yeah, does anybody have any questions specifically about how to use that OALCF, like that, the framework there, and how to work through the tasks and the milestones and stuff?
Charity, I'll just bring up also in our the course that we're going to review if there's any extra questions in there as well. Because I think everyone's just kind of, we come from the lunch break and it's so nice out.
I know, isn't that great? A week ago, I had to cancel an appointment because we had road closures and even the snow plows were pulled off the road. So to see the sun shining, and we don't quite see the ground yet, but we will soon.
Oh no, we've got the ground and all of the leftover dirt and sand and all of those things, and we're sitting at like 17 degrees right now, so it is glorious.
And
I'm watching a group of kids with old golf clubs smashing an old muddy snow pile, and they're just having a blast out there. The golf clubs aren't doing so well, but the kids are having a blast.
Yeah, so there's so if you need to come back and reference some more of the chart, we have it all here in the course that you would have access to.
Yeah, and as I understand it, I believe the ministry made copies of that chart and mailed it out to people. I know I went to visit people after that chart came out, and some of them had it stuck up on the wall so that, right in front of their desk. So as they're working on the computer and they're wondering, where does this fit in? They just look up and there's the chart and they walk their way through from the column on the left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I remember seeing like really nice big ones that were color coordinated and coded so that you could not get lost in all of the writing, kind of like the one that we've got there, but they were almost like a desk mat or like a big wall calendar size.
Mm-hmm.
One question, the type of assessments, what assessments would you highly recommend with our learners coming in? I know that's one of the things I struggled with when I was in that position, because you have so many options, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you want something that's appropriate to where the learner wants to go. So having them go through like the SCARGO when they want to do basic computer skills is kind of redundant because it's such a big assessment.
Well, the interesting thing is one of the first things I was asked to develop when the OALCF came out was to do the task-based activities. So I talked to people and I asked them, what goals are your learners working towards? What activities do you have them working on? And then I developed task-based activities so that they could use those activities to kind of figure out where they needed to go next. And I had a couple of practitioners say to me that they're using the task-based activities as an assessment because they're already on the repository under the different goal paths that are up here on the screen right now.
That makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense. I didn't know that you could do that.
I did try escargot, and man, I found that so boring. It wasn't engaging the learner, I guess is the most polite way to put it. So task-based activities.
I found for myself I would use escargot if they were trying to like if it was like they were heading into or completing high school credits and just to get an understanding of where they were at in what areas.
Mm-hmm.
but otherwise it was, if there was an opportunity to use a section of escargot or, kind of break it down so they weren't using a full assessment. Because yeah, you would lose them and then they wouldn't come back because they'd be overwhelmed by just the assessment in order to access some of the programming.
Yeah, thank you, Charity, for mentioning that. I know that we constantly have turnover. So we have people coming, well, with learners, but also with the practitioners. So there were always new practitioners coming in when I was more involved with the ONLC. And what I would encourage them to do, remember I said make multiple copies of that chart and have it everywhere. What I encouraged the practitioners to do once they've done an assessment and they talk to the learner about what they would like to do, then I told them, put a copy of the chart in front of you as you're talking and you highlight in one color on that chart. Put the date on the chart, highlight what they demonstrated to you that they are capable of doing at that point in time. And then a little further down the road, say 3 months down, pull out a chart again, but this time put another date on it and highlight in different colors. So you can show the learner, see, this was where you were 3 months ago, and this is where you are now.
Yeah, and that's interesting because even thinking about the way the ministry developed the program, we're talking in like 3-month intervals, and the ministry is like, well, 3 months, you kind of get them in and you get them out. Not the learners that we're working with. We're talking like a year, maybe longer. So
If that.
yeah, exactly. And sometimes they just really they've reached their goals and they like participating in the class, and there's other goals they didn't even know that they had when they initially started that they're going to continue working through. So
Exactly. And they feel so comfortable in the class that they just want to hang out there for a while and help others.
yeah. And I know within the Fort Erie space, something that we found, I mean, again, when I was in it, I'm not sure if it's still the same, was we would get a lot of non-Indigenous people who just had preference for our approach to teaching and learning, where they had tried the mainstream programs and it didn't feel the same, and the pressure was different, and the approach and all of those things, including the option to some of the boutique learning, was different. So we had to be mindful about how we were structuring our programs and kind of who was coming from where, and what those goal paths looked like for them.
And I remember when I started at the ministry in 1988. So I was at the Native Women's Resource Center in 1987, their very first coordinator, and within a year there I was at the ministry. And I remember the person I was reporting to coming in to me and saying he was concerned because he got a phone call from, I don't even remember the name of the place, and it was an Anglophone program, and they were concerned that many of their Anglophone learners were going to the native literacy program. And I just sat there stunned, and I said, so what is wrong with that? And he just looked at me like, oh, yeah. If we're giving them the choice of where they want to go, then what is wrong with an Anglophone learner going to where they feel more accepted, more comfortable, whatever?
So you talked about doing the like the ribbon skirt or the ribbon apparel making workshop.
Yep.
Is Melissa still the coordinator? Melissa?
The route is going to be facilitating our ribbon apparel making, and yes, she is the coordinator.
Wonderful.
She was the she was a facilitator of choice. Our committee put together about 5 different names, And we put it out there to the participants and said, okay, here are the names that were put forward. And I think it was pretty much unanimous. Yes, let's go with Melissa.
Yeah. What other programs are running out there? Can you actually give the group a little bit of background on the transition, I guess, that Sagin has experienced with the library and Melissa and kind of what the program has done?
Okay, so gosh, that has to go back a few years too. At first they ran separately and we had a bit of turnover. Well, no, the practitioner who came on the same time I did, she stayed on for a while and then retired, and we had trouble finding someone. We found someone, but she didn't quite understand how to work with the framework that was in place at the time, which was not the OALCF. So there was a bit of a turnover there too, and I was racking my head trying to think about who do we need somebody and who do we get? And I was seeing some of the very creative and fun activities that Melissa was doing through the library. So I talked to her and asked her if she would be interested in having her name put forward. So the literacy program and the library program merged, and they're in one building now. So she's able to offer, there's not a lot of funding with either program, but she merges the two of them together and is able to offer more creative activities.
You see a foot or a tail or something there, Mary.
Pardon?
Mary's got her cat walking in front of her computer.
Uh-huh.
Yes,
Oh,
Izzy like
maybe-
control of my desk.
Do we have any other questions or just information that you would like to share or thoughts you would like to share with Ningwakwe? Feedback?
And silence. Well, it was really nice to finally meet you after the several emails.
Yes, toing and froing. And it took me a while to realize that you have a different name now, but you're the same Alisha.
Yeah, in my introduction earlier today, I had to I don't know why on my Zooms it always reverts back to Alicia Thomas, but my married name would be MacDonald.
Mhm.
Time Michelle gives me a contract, she says, "What's your name this week?"
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I just need to turn into like a share with a one name kind of thing.
Yeah. I guess the thing that I've learned all the way through the different years that I've been involved with the ONLC and with education is to make it as fun and as engaging and as meaningful as possible, fit it into our the only example I can give right now, because I'm tired, I was at an appointment with my brother this morning. I'm his power of attorney, and it's hard watching him go through the various stages in his life, and I'm having to go with him to ask questions. So I'm a little bit tired. The only example I can think of right now, and it's kind of, gosh, it just went from my head. That's how tired I am.
That is absolutely okay. I think we are all feeling that. Just
Mhm.
as it is the time of year, right? The year end, the busy, all of the things, and trying to get ourselves situated and sorted out, working through some of this stuff. So
Friday afternoon.
100%. Friday afternoon and it's sunny outside.
And that time change this week.
Yes. And March break, little NHL, the families and the kids are just coming back.
Mhm.
Oh, I thought of the example. So Michelle got a hold of me because the ministry had a few years ago identified some money left over at the end of the fiscal year, and we're going to divvy it up, and here's how much we're going to give you, and you've got to develop something. And people on the board at that time were putting forward suggestions, and they didn't seem, one of them was talking about going out shopping and teaching the learners how to shop more wisely at a grocery store. And so Michelle got a hold of me and said, what would you suggest? Well, I happened to have just moved home at the time, so that would be 11 years ago. Well, coming up on 11 years, and I was putting in a garden. So I said, well, what about food right from the beginning to where you're planting it and you're taking care of it and you're harvesting it and then you're making food? What kind of food are you going to make? Why? Are they our traditional dishes, or is it your favorite recipe that you found from another culture? So that's how that, I forget the name of the resource, that's how that came to be. So she saw that as a little more fun than going out and shopping wisely at a grocery store. I got my grocery store out there to the north of my house, my garden.
Those are
So
good skills to have now, considering how expensive everything is.
I know. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is make it big picture, practical, meaningful stuff, whatever you're going to be doing with the learners.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much, Ningwakwe.
Okay, so I'm sprung. It's your next session, isn't it? I saw your agenda. I guess Charity and Alisha are gonna take over and do cams.
Right? Talk about fun.
Okay, have fun with
No,
cams. All right, take care.
thank you so much, Ningwakwe. It was nice to see you.
Nice to see you too, even if virtually.
Yes.
Bye.
Yes. She drop off already? She's out. Where are you going?
Changing my desk around a little bit. By desk, I mean a paper shredder.
Oh, nice. Oh, ladies.
Alrighty. Back into the fun stuff.
Right? I'm like, I'm so excited for this part. I apologize.
Oh.
One of those necessary evils.
So do we need a little chocolate break, or do we just want to dive in and maybe just plug right through it and we can get done earlier?
I'm for plugging on.
Yeah.
We're gonna let the participants lead that. Yeah.
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think based on the kind of questions, Stacy, that you brought forward, just to go straight into the CAMS learner section of the module, Alisha.
Hmm?
Yeah, if we go into the learner section, then we should be able to walk through this and kind of navigate and answer any of the questions that you might have. So now, Stacy, you are probably like Mary, you should have lots of experience in entering a new learner and going through that place. Okay, so next.
No, I don't do any of that.
What?
No, Angel does that, all that. I don't do
Angel does
any.
all the data. Okay, so go to the next.
I should learn for in case something happens to her, but no, she does all that kind of stuff. I did in Employment Ontario, but I never have with this position.
Oh, yes.
I
Okay.
don't even have access to it actually right now.
I wish that's how it was when I was in literacy. Go to the next screen, please, Alisha. Okay, so this is just a sample file checklist, recognizing that everyone to the best of my knowledge, still has paper files for their students. Now, yes, you have your own way of organizing and maintaining, keeping track of who is an active learner, who is a 3-month follow-up, who is a 6-month follow-up, or a 6-month, and then a 9-month or a 12-month follow-up. This is just a sample of the things that should be in your file. And however you want to lay that out, if you have that in the front of your file folder, so you can kind of go through and check off, yes, we have all of these things. Yes, they are signed. The one thing that you need to be mindful of is that your learner plans need to be signed. And every time you make changes in the computer to the learner plan, you're supposed to print out either the entire learner plan or the pages that have changed and get a new signature on that plan, because the learner plan, you're supposed to do that with the learner. This isn't something that we're developing on their behalf. We're walking through identifying what their goals are and the programs, and like the, based on the assessment, we know what their learning style as well as what their level is. And then together with the learner, we're building out what their learning plan looks like. So as you're going through it, they may progress quicker or slower depending on where they're actually at. Sometimes that's just because of how they kind of go through the assessment, because like I said, there's a lot of challenges with the assessments that we have, recognizing that the learners that we're supporting are changing and the assessment tools aren't necessarily reflective of some of those challenges and changes that we're seeing in the learners. But we just want to be mindful that the learner plan is owned by the learner, so we want them to be aware of everything that is in it, that they sign off on it, and then it's up to us to do our best to facilitate and help them walk through that. So we will skip past the assessment, because what assessment are you using, Mary and Stacy?
So I have is it CABS
Yep.
assessment, and then I have one's a math and numeracy, and then one is an English.
So just smaller sections then?
Yeah, I can show you what it looks like. Hold on.
I don't have them on me, so I don't know the title. They're ones that I really would like recommendations on new assessments,
Okay.
because these ones have just been grandfathered in, and where I was handed them and said, "Here, use these every time."
Mhm.
So I would be
I'll be
more than
fine.
interested in
I'll put it.
the good ones.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
says LBS initial assessment numeracy, and then the other one's reading and writing.
Okay. Now, approximately how long does it take your learners to complete their assessments? And do you feel those assessments give you a good idea of what level they are based on how they're completing it?
So this is like where the parts that I struggle with, because I am in no capacity any kind of teacher.
Right.
Linda is the one that does the tutoring as is it Alicia or Alisha? Sorry. As Alicia knows. So like I'm doing the coordinating pieces, and that's what I'm struggling with, is trying to figure out like where Linda should be starting and stopping with what she's doing to get them where they like onto their next steps.
Okay.
Does
So
that make sense?
absolutely. So what Ningwaka was talking about with that chart, that's really,
Right.
that's your Bible. So when you're working through the numeracy pieces with a learner, and okay, is it the escargot assessment, Alicia, that actually aligns up pretty specifically to the OALCF?
Yeah.
Okay, so can you pull that up as an,
Can
see, look at you getting so good at navigating this thing.
This is the only thing I learned during COVID. But no, I find that was the hardest part too, was the, like, what do you use to assess them?
Yeah.
Because I just went back to my teaching days of what I would use for
Yeah.
my class.
Yeah.
Like
So if you
even,
go, yeah, go on to the escargot one. Again, like I said, escargot, if it is gonna work.
I know for
Just
the,
picture having no teaching experience and being put in a coordinator role for this.
Yeah, and that's why,
Yeah.
which if the escar, if we can find you a sample, what about when you click on the assessment tools one? Did you already click there? Oh, and it doesn't want to connect.
no, we had it earlier. Where did it go?
And it's funny because sometimes you have to click on a different spot in order for it to come up, which is ridiculous. I don't really know why it does that, but um, anyway, one of the assessments, it's like if you have a level 1 learner, they should be able to complete up to this, and if they're going past that, it's a level 2. A lot of that is in the marking scheme. Otherwise, the using that the OALCF framework document is going to be your Bible, because it will essentially, you just, oh yeah, see, we do have that, we have that in there somewhere.
Yeah, it's somewhere.
Is this like accessible online in that
Yeah, this is
Canvas thing?
we'll update the links to make sure that it works, because I don't know why.
I just pulled it up online and got it that way. Like
Okay.
Okay,
typed
so
in
I can just search it and then find it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I found it on the KESPA site.
So yeah, so the
Okay.
answer key is what you want. Maybe if it's gonna give it to us.
No, it wouldn't be that easy.
Okay, well, when we find and get, we'll ask Michelle, because I know Michelle's a member of KESBA. So we'll make sure that we actually have those embedded and not just links
So
in there, so that we can walk you through it.
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah, because have you even looked at the assessment tool they have here? Where is it?
Honestly, there's so much material that I don't know how to narrow it down to the most important things that I need, because there is so much stuff.
So first
I
thing
agree.
is understanding that, you know, your Bible, that framework,
Right.
because when, and again, like Nagwakwe said, if you can have it out and posted, then you have a quick review to be like, okay, we've done these things, we've completed these, the learner has done this with Linda or whoever is teaching it. We know this is approximately the type of things that they're doing within this. We're going to put them at a level 2. And you can put them at a level 2 and keep them at a level 2A or 2.1, or so that they're on the low end of a 2, and build all the way through on tasks that are increasing incrementally to get them to a 3. They don't have to jump from a 2 to a 3. That's a lot of our learners, they just don't do that, because they may, even in math, they may be good with adding, but they may not be good with subtracting. Right?
So can I ask another question? So
Yeah.
I have a lot of questions, sorry.
Why you're here.
So these, Linda uses like very specific sets of books, and one of them is the Challenger books. And then and then one of them is like I'm not sure what the math one is, but the Challenger is English, right?
But it's that whole series of learning tools. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Like from like
So how
Dusty.
do I know what level they're at based on what book they're in? Like, is there a way to know that?
Yes, you should be able to tell from the book. Are you in the office that you have the books available?
Yeah. Hold on.
Because I don't know, would it even be wise to suggest what we use for math in the elementary schools? Because coming from elementary to adult literacy, there was not a whole lot difference.
No, not in the skills. Absolutely not. Maybe in the approach to teaching, it may be a little bit different, but in what you're asking them to do, it's still very similar.
But it's also the different thing as, you know, how we learn to subtract. And was it you, Mary, saying like the carrying over They're not getting it. When I went to teachers college, they were starting this new thing of how they teach it differently now.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work for my learners at all.
Nope, it doesn't.
Because that's new math.
Yeah.
And one, I don't understand new math. I'm not a teacher.
No,
Not a qualified teacher, though I teach. And it doesn't work. Do you know what I've been looking for is like new English, like, oh, I've gone blank on the name, but for adult learning, like for new Canadians, like they're reading in basic math programs, like ESL stuff. Like some of the ESL math stuff, I am finding at least his old math and doesn't have like monkeys and little other cartoon characters on it.
So
but it's few and far between to find. But for me, for the best math I have found for basic math, Northwest Territories Literacy has made the best math book out there. It's basic math. It starts right at adding. It is not childish at all. And they've got actually some really good resources for Northwest Territories literacy. And yeah, they've got home math, kitchen math, and basic math. And so far, that is the number one that I have found. It was by accident. I found it, and it's all free, easy. You can print it off and everything.
Yeah, no, and those are great resources, because as you find those resources, once I figure out how to get them embedded again, then we can put those links and those resources right in the course. That way we're sharing those, because essentially that's what we want to do, right? We want to make sure that any of the new coordinators coming in have a bank of resources that you can find what works for you and what works for your learning.
Yeah, if you type in NWT literacy math, the actual books will come up.
Now,
and it comes up as Simply Math.
Okay.
Simply Math.
And yeah, it is like, it starts right at the beginning, but it's not childish at all, which is wonderful.
Enough.
Yeah, and I think that'd be a great thing if we could get a hold of what they're using for ESL, because there's so many immigrants coming in. And like you said, in the school systems now, half of the classes are
The everyday math skills, is that what
The
we're
everyday math skills. The Simply Math, kitchen math, money math.
Yeah.
Oh, so these ones here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, so if you click on one of those, and I'm going to go back into.
Hey, this is the book I use with my trades. And looking like a more adult book, they don't feel like they're out of place doing the basic stuff.
Right? Because that's the thing, is making sure they still feel respected, that their learning is important, and they're not so far behind, because they're already pretty aware of where they're at. Why can't I find that chart in here now? Okay, almost there. I'm just backing up through the course. Okay, so so pause there. Just pick a spot and pause. Okay, so we're looking at rounding. Okay. And so large numbers, decimal places. Let's go to so when you look at the framework, we have our task groups so when we're in the competency is understand and use numbers. The task group is your manage money, manage time, use measures, manage data. Okay. So again, then you move over to a level 1 learner. And if you are managing money, which decimals could be considered money, even though this isn't
Mm-hmm.
a money question, it's compare costs and make simple calculations. Okay. Measure time and make simple comparisons and calculations. Measure and make simple comparisons and calculations. Anyway, that's all of level 1. So when we're looking at a level,
Like if you grab their home math, I really want to do that program. They talk about painting a room, like how much paint you need
I need
to exactly
I'm
like
like, I'm just gonna buy extra because it's hard to match.
is like they've really, I guess they're in the dark half a year, so they've got the time, but whatever their reason, I find their resources just phenomenal.
Right. But the difference between a level 1 is, you're just literally looking at numbers and you can basically identify what is larger, what is smaller, simple kind of, if you're moving decimal places, that gets a little bit more complicated. To like a level 4 is you're like finding information and data and you're able to put it into a chart, analyze it, and pull out information, right?
Yeah, and that this one is definitely more of a level 4, where the other one is definitely a level 1. But I just love that they, that they've made these books.
It's because the whole idea and the way that the framework, the OALCF framework works is can you, like a level 1 is somebody who can identify. So you can identify your words and letters and colors and numbers. So similar to like a kindergarten to a grade 1 student, right? And then a level 2 is you're able to take that basic information and either write more complex sentences or paragraphs or read with larger words. Your calculations are going from like addition and subtraction into like fractions and multiplication and division. And then a level 3 learner is being able to combine all of these other skills to analyze information. That's why we don't see a lot of level 3 learners, because your level 3 is somebody you would say has completed, I guess it kind of depends on where they're at, but I'm going to say they've completed like a grade 9, 10 level. And then if you're above a level 3, then you're looking at getting into like post-secondary. So I don't know if that helps you at all, Stacy, when you're trying to think about where your learners are at. Because a level 1 learner is very basic introduction, kindergarten to a grade 1, 2 level.
Okay.
And then it just slowly builds. So when you're trying to figure out how you build a learner plan, you put in as many tasks as you can, as many tasks as they need, because those tasks are those little things that they're doing to build their confidence and to show that, okay, if we need to get to a milestone that they need to add, subtract, and multiply, we're going to do a task that has them adding all kinds of different things. We're going to do a different task that has them subtracting all kinds of different things. We're going to have a different task that, you know what I mean? So you're just doing all of those like baby steps the same way, and forgive me, but the way that you would teach a child to walk or to tie a shoe or any of those things. It's really, really break it down, because there's
Luda, can you please move your vehicle?
what was that?
We have 2 really small parking lots and too many people that work here. So they make about 50 parking announcements every day asking people to move their cars that are blocking other people in.
Oh, that's fun.
So this is another
Yeah.
resource I use as a teacher. It's called Jump Math, and they do have it in pre-kindergarten, kindergarten, all the way up to grade 8, if that's easier, if you just want to maybe pull some questions out of there and create your own type of assessment.
Okay.
Can I get the ONLC? I couldn't find where to get that ONLC assessment.
Oh, see. So it would be here on the Turtlebacks Publishing.
Okay. Yeah, I went to that part.
And
You gotta go through all the stuff.
Oh, you have to just go through all the books until you find it.
Yeah. We need to work.
Now,
We need to work on categorizing. If you're looking for a language resource, you go here. If you're looking for a math resource, you go here. We'll tell Michelle she's got to do that.
yeah, so this one here.
okay. And it says it's free, so
Yep. You should just be able
or
to.
is it printable or oh no, I have to
But-
get her to send it. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a. I think she mails it out. So
Okay.
there's a bunch of resources that you want. You should be able to just make the request.
Add that to the cart. Let's check out.
Apply the discount code. Yeah, you give me money.
Yeah, so it looks like just send it in your email.
Huh.
And there you go.
Maybe it would be a digital. If it's a digital, I'm sure you can probably print it as well because, you know.
Perfect.
That
Yeah.
would be the easiest one.
So yeah, that I would say for your information, the biggest thing is getting really comfortable with understanding what the literacy framework is, like the OALCF, getting comfortable with those competencies so that when you're looking at a learner, talking with the learner, kind of, and you'll have an idea even just when you're going through like the intake process with them, right? How they answer questions, because they may be really good in math and they may be really low in the writing and the reading pieces, and that's fine. See, look at there's Ningwakwe right there, written by Ningwakwe George in 1980. She's amazing. She's done so much work. It's phenomenal. Okay, so let's. Any more questions? I know that probably is clear as mud. If you need Stacy or Mary, put the request into Michelle for a visit, and she'll send either myself or Disha to you, and we can walk through what you have in your space and how to use it.
Yeah, because if I would just load up your cart here right now and get all that free stuff.
Yeah.
Because I know this was at HRIC at one time, but it was old and it was falling apart.
But it
And
has all the pictures of everything in it that you need.
but I didn't utilize it till maybe my last couple months there.
Yeah, I have mine somewhere. Like I just looked at it the other day. It's just kind of funny. Okay. So
Well, good to know where some stuff is anyway.
yeah, I know that doesn't answer specifically. And ultimately, what we would need to do is see if you had a sample learner or a sample, or if you have one now, somebody that you're, trying to figure out how or what steps you need to take with them in order to get them set up, right? Because we could do that the same way Ningwakwe walked through, this is a sample boutique program that they're running, and these are how you would identify what those levels look like and what the tasks are that would be associated with those, and just really break it down. But when it comes to putting a learner into the system, we'll skip forward to that and try and walk through that quickly.
Oh, I know how to do all that.
Okay, so you're good with that piece?
Yeah, it's just how to close somebody that I can't get a proper closure form from.
Okay, so
Yeah.
most time, well, I shouldn't say most time, a lot of the time you're not going to have an actual form for them because this happens, they disappear. Now,
Yes.
if you don't have a task that's completed, a milestone that's completed, to back them out of the system and open them in error will not hit your stats negatively. So,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So
If they don't have a milestone, you said?
you don't have a milestone, you can open them in error. I mean, you don't want to be doing that for like 800 million people, but it just essentially you do that, it backs them out of the system. It's the same thing as if they came in, they said they were going to start this program, and then they never showed up again.
And a lot
Right.
of
You
times
got
that's
them.
the case.
Exactly. It happens all the time, right? So you get everything built, you get, this learner ready to go. Say they're here for the assessment, they're here for the intake, they do those pieces. But then when it comes to actually start the course, they move away or anything can happen and they don't come back again.
Okay,
So
so what do? You go where?
so you're going to, okay, so now I need to be able to see that.
Sorry, these are it's small. It's hard to see.
It is. In the course, I think it's a little bit bigger. But again, like you're working off like screenshots.
Under events.
I need to, okay, so in here, so pause here. So you'll have but before you can open them or close them in error, you'll have to make sure that your end dates and all of that stuff are all backed up, because you know how you have to have one, like it's really specific about your expected end date and your actual end date.
Yeah.
All of those need to just be aligned and meticulous, and it's kind of a pain in the butt.
Yep.
So you have to have all of this stuff essentially kind of cleared out, and then go modify review. I need to get into the spot where I can see it myself, which is annoying. Do.
And I wish they would just give us access to cams.
So that we could walk through it with you live. That would make life so much easier, that it's like, okay,
Well, couldn't I just log on to mine and share my screen?
Sure you can. If you're good with that, absolutely. That would make everybody's life a lot easier.
Okay, hold on, I'll do that.
Perfect. So we'll let
I
you.
just really would like to just make sure I know what I'm doing here. Otherwise.
Yeah.
There hasn't been much opportunity to connect with anyone just until now.
Yeah, not a problem.
And you know what? This could be a whole day of just
Walking through, starting people, building learning plans, closing people, clicking on,
Yeah.
making sure that, because if you want a learner to count, you have to have a task and you have to have a milestone.
Yeah.
Right? So those things have to be in, they have to be entered. They don't have to have a culminating task, but they have to have at least one milestone for them to count as a learner.
Yeah, for the culminating task, she told me to just put no response.
Yeah.
Like, is that right? I don't know.
But I think they're gonna start trying to chase us down and start doing the culminating tasks.
Yeah, I heard
just
that.
Yeah, I just went to a thing in Toronto and that's all it was about. And actually I ended up writing one.
A culminating
So I
task.
felt kind of special. Yes, they had me do an indigenous one for trade, so I did it for a carpenter. So which I knew nothing about. Thank you, ChatGPT.
How did you do it?
Yeah, actually me and Charity just came off that carousel of writing culminating tasks.
Yes.
She's still
Yeah. Oh, you had to write one too?
I'm still revising.
Yes, they keep bringing it back to me.
Yeah.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, I'm still revising, and I'm like, listen, you wanted this level, I'm giving you this level. Okay, you're logged in under Hamilton. All right.
Which one did you do, Charity?
Post-secondary.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Initially, they gave me all 5 and said, here, you've got a month to do 5.
Oh, no, not a chance.
I looked at it and hyperventilated a whole bunch, and then they took 4 away, thankfully.
Yeah, no, I did the post-secondary, but it was really frustrating. Just because if you're at a post-secondary level, the task that we created, you would hope that the learner can do, right? But it's like they keep revising and revising to make it more simple, and I'm like, that's not fair. Like, it's not a challenging task to begin with, but to continue to make it more simple, then it's not reflecting the level and the task appropriately. So you're not
Yeah.
you're not preparing your learners.
And me was I had them build a little floor plan.
Alicia, can you make sure you're not recording
Oh.
while we go through